There it is. Okay, so this is the statement of net position. This is a balance sheet. I like to use the metaphor of a wedding. A balance sheet is like the pictures of a wedding, where an income statement is like the video of the wedding. So a balance sheet tells you what's happening at one point in time. And that point in time that we're looking at is September 30th, 2023. The statement of net position reports the district's balance sheet at the government-wide level. So it includes things like fixed assets, and it's more like the way a business reports their financial statements. And the bottom line is at the bottom of the page, the total net position as September 30th, 2023 was $63 million. Like I said, that includes fixed assets, things that cannot be sold, infrastructure, as well as money that's restricted for debt service. And you'll see that breakdown there, the $24 million in fixed assets, the $22 million that's restricted for debt service, and the $17 million that's restricted for units of development maintenance. I'd like to skip over to the balance sheet on the governmental level, and that is on page 3 pages ahead, 28. Actually, 20. So it's 2 pages before that, Scarlett. It's page 16 on the hard copy. So this is the governmental balance sheet, which is on a different basis of accounting, which doesn't include the fixed assets and other long-term liabilities. And you see at the bottom of the page, the total fund balances are $24.5 million. That's right above the $45 million. And then 2 pages over on page 18 of the hard copy. Right there, yep. We have the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Now this, like I said, is like an income statement, and this is like a video of a wedding. So this tells you what happened during the year that was ended September 30th, 2023. And what you can see there is on the far right column, total revenues were $21.8 million. And then you go down to the next section, $21.6 million were the expenditures. So there was an excess of $286,000. And the beginning fund balance was $24 million, plus the $286,000 is $24.5 million at the bottom there. So those are just the brief highlights of what happened and what's in the financial statements. There's the notes, nothing really changed significantly from previous years, but they provide a lot of good information, and everything that was required is in there. At the back of the report, we have a couple of our other independent auditors' reports. On page 50 of the hard copy, there's an internal control over financial reporting and on compliance. And there, I'm happy to report there was also an unmodified or a clean opinion. Thank you. And then the other reports are reports that are required to be submitted to the state, and I'm happy to report that there were no findings or items that we were required to bring forth there. With that, I'd just like to thank the board once again for choosing us to be the independent auditors of the financial statements, and the staff for all their collaboration. And yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions?
I just want to thank staff for this, because can you repeat what you started with?
Yes.
That we have a
Clean, technically an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion, the best opinion that
right.
we can provide.
And
You
so
can get.
there's always some little thing
Right.
And this is the first
How is
time
that?
in several years that we have had a fully clean, no little minor thing.
Right.
So congratulations. Let's do that year after year.
Yep.
Patty?
Just like to thank Aaron for participating as Batman. He's upside down.
Thank you, yeah.
Hoping he doesn't
Is
get
that on his end or ours?
Good job, Aaron.
Keith, it's okay, we'll then.
You're fine.
Yeah, good job. We're plus, so that's good.
Absolutely. Yes, okay.
I'm sorry.
It's always better to be plus than minus.
Yes, definitely.
I do want to thank Grow and Associates, thank you very much, but I want to thank our staff for working very hard to keep us in line and making sure that the money is spent appropriately and staying within the Florida guidelines. So thank you very much.
Yes, and I'll agree with all of that. Staff, is doing their job. That's nice to see. We work for the people, and the people want to know that their dollars are all being spent appropriately and wisely, and that we care about those dollars. And you guys coming here and once again giving us a clean audit just goes to show that we're on the right track and the train is rolling smoothly. So thank you, and thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes,
Is it
ma'am.
appropriate to receive and file the audit?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So make a
moved.
recommendation.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4-0.
Through the chair, just want to
Yes.
thank the board as well for good management. So, and don't forget, you've been able to attain a AA rating, and this also helps maintain it for quite a long time. If we keep on this
And that
track.
means a lot, having that AA rating, absolutely, in everything that we do. So, and again, kudos to our staff for getting us to that position.
Through the chair, just to let you know, Supervisor Johnson is online.
Well, welcome Supervisor Johnson. Were you able to hear the presentation?
All right.
No, you're fine.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have any questions or comments?
I do not. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. We're glad you're with us.
Did he want to vote as part of the five? A
Oh,
motion to
oh, yeah,
receive?
because we had a motion, Michael, did you hear it? Yeah, yeah, he can vote and he can make it.
Yeah. The actual requested motion is a motion to receive and file the audited financial statements.
Through the
Yes,
chair.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Hold on, go
No,
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go
I was
ahead.
waiting for him. Just to clarify, it's up to the local government governing body, on whether or not you will allow someone to vote. So for instance, at Palm Beach Board of County Commissioners, you have to be present to vote. But
So it's a board policy.
it's board. Yep.
I thought the state, well, anyway.
Well, anyway, it's,
You
for our
ha-
purposes, it's as long as that person does not constitute the quorum,
Yes.
then they can participate on the vote.
So not that I want to belabor this point, but when did we change as a board the policy? Because,
That's how we've been operating.
well, that may be how we've been operating, but have we adopted a policy? Because I recall when we used to have telephone participation prior to COVID, that if somebody was participating, and not that I'm trying to, I want Mike
Right.
to, but when we used to have telephone participation, like when Gary Dunkley was in the hospital, he wasn't allowed to vote when he participated by telephone. And we have not amended our policy as it relates to that, so.
I can't respond directly to Mr. Dunkley's situation. I'm not sure if it could have been that he did not constitute the quorum. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll
I
be
do
happy to
know,
check for
and what
you.
I'm saying is that we have not amended our policy, Mary. So we can't, just in practice, decide that we're going to do something different. We need to, as a board, vote for it, especially if that's what the statute says. So that's all I'm trying to bring up.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
research it, because when I started here, a person did call in a couple different times, and I believe they voted when I was first start, but.
We'd be happy to look
we'll look
to
at it.
confirm it for
So-
everybody.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
please do that,
We'll be happy
and
to.
get back to us on that. In the meantime, how are we going to handle supervisor, huh? I know this, but for the
It was
rest of the
5-0.
meeting.
For my recommendation is that we can go ahead, based on the process that we have been doing and we can go ahead and have a motion right now to authorize it, so there's no question with regards to the participation by the absent member.
Okay, so,
Then I will make a motion to do so.
Can we release?
of course, oh, yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
have
you're good, you're good.
But we wanted to
You're a
make sure
busy
the
man.
report
Thank
got
you.
Yes,
accepted,
thank
so
you.
Yes,
we can
it will regardless, so
course.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay.
So I'll make a motion
And I'm
to
seconding.
amend our policy to ensure that if you are participating via telephone or any other electronic means, that you are authorized to vote unless the board decides otherwise,
Yes, but.
as long as we have a quorum.
Yes.
And they
as long as
cannot
we-
make the quorum.
Right.
Okay.
That's an absolute.
You got that, Scarlett?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll work on it.
So Supervisor Argy made the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, Supervisor Farrell second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just
Okay.
don't want any of our
Michael?
votes coming into question.
Right, no, absolutely, I agree. Michael?
Yes.
Okay.
Vote aye.
Yay or nay? Yay or nay on letting you vote? Okay, yay, okay, so it passes 5-0. Okay, so do we remake the motion to receive and file? or
We've
do we
already
just
did that.
Leave it alone?
Yes.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay, next up, item 6.2 on the agenda. Oh, do we do public comment for this? No, right, I didn't
No.
think so, okay. 6.2, the Loxahatchee River Restoration Project. We have a presentation by Jennifer Leeds, Jeff Buck, and Mike Thompson from South Florida Water Management. So who would like to speak? Jeff?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeff Buck with South Florida Water Management District.
Good evening.
Good evening. Here to talk to you tonight about the Loxahatchee River Watershed Restoration Project. I'm going to touch on a little bit about the project and some of the details about one of the specific flowways, Flowway 2, where we plan to build the C-18 West impoundment. Before I hop into the presentation, just want to address my colleagues here. Jennifer Leeds, Bureau Chief with the Ecosystem Restoration Planning Bureau.
Welcome.
Leslie Waugh, Section Administrator. And Michael Tompkins, he's also a project manager on the Locks River project.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. So again, my purpose here is to kind of touch on the project, jump into some of the details, and discuss some of the agreements that we might need in the future in order to make the project work. We're at the very early stages of the project, lots more to discuss, but certainly a great time to kick off communications between the district and ITID as we move forward. So we're starting off here, I think, on a good foot, and with that said, we'll go ahead and jump right into the presentation. So first up, my slide here is to present the project purpose of the Locks River project, which is to first and foremost improve the freshwater flows to the northwest fork of the Locks River, which is a nationally designated wild and scenic river. Second, the project's purpose is to restore the hydrology and the connectivity of wetlands and watersheds that form the historic headwaters of the river. Next slide, please. So the Locks River project has 5 objectives. I'll quickly touch on these. So objective 1 is to restore the wet and dry season flows to the northwest fork of the Locks River. Objective 2 is to restore the oysters, seagrass, and other estuarine communities within the Loxahatchee River estuary. Objective 3 is to increase the spatial extent and function of wetlands throughout the watershed. Objective 4 is to restore the watershed connections among the natural areas that form the headwaters to the Loxahatchee River. The purpose there is to improve the hydrology, the sheet flow, the hydroperiods, the natural storage, and the vegetative communities. And objective 5 here is to restore abundance and diversity of native plant and animal species throughout the watershed. Next slide, please. So up next, we have a map of the authorized plan for the Loxahatchee River project. It's called Alternative 5R. As you can see from the map here, Alternative 5R covers a pretty large area. Overall, the Locks River project is situated in southern Martin County and northern Palm Beach County. And because of its scale, the project was broken up into 3 different flowways based on geographic area. So at the north end of the project, we have Flowway 3. Flowway 3 sits in southern Martin County, right along the edge of the Palm Beach County border. And the purpose of Flowway 3 is to restore water flow to the historic tributaries of the northwest fork of the river up in this area, and that includes Kitchen Creek, Moonshine Creek, Cypress Creek. Moving towards the center of the map, in purple, you'll see Flowway 2, and that's what we really want to touch on tonight. That's what really covers ITID's territory. In Flowway 2, our project feature that we're planning to build there, the big one, is the C18 West Impoundment, which is a 9,500 acre foot above ground impoundment that would be constructed on the former Mecca property. The second project feature there in Flowway 2 will include 4 ASR wells. ASR stands for Aquifer Storage and Recovery. So that makes up the bulk of Flowway 2, those 2 items. Mike Tompkins is going to get into more detail on that in the subsequent slides, but I just want to touch on that and show you all where that's located relative to the footprint of the project. And then last, real quick, is Flowway 1. That's at the south end of the project. That includes some of the features that the district has already built, including the G160 and G161 structures on the C18 canal. We're also looking to do some restoration work in the Grassy Waters Preserve Triangle, as well as build a new pump station on the M Canal. So that's kind of a general overview of the scope of the Locks River project and where the project features are situated. Next slide, please. So project benefits. So the Locks River project aims to restore restoration target flows to the river. With the implementation of the project, we're looking to achieve 91% of the dry season restoration target flows and 98% of the wet season restoration target flows to Locks River as measured over Lanehart Dam. Achieving these target flows will promote the recovery of riverine freshwater species, as well as estuarine zones for fish, seagrass, oysters, and other protected species in the waterway. There's a natural lands component, as I mentioned earlier, to the Locks River project. We're looking at improving about 27,000 acres total of former wetlands, some of which was agricultural lands, some of which are impacted wetlands on natural areas. We're also looking to maintain or improve the ecological connectivity and hydrological connectivity among 78,000 acres of natural land. So it kind of goes beyond those 27,000 we're looking to directly restore. And then bundled in with the restoration work, the Locks River project also includes recreational features. We're looking at building 2 sets of rec features up in Flowway 3 and then 1 set in Flowway 2 on the Mecca property. Next slide, please. Okay, so this brings me to my last slide before I turn it over to Mike here. And this is a snapshot of the 2023 integrated delivery schedule. This is a schedule that the district and the Army Corps of Engineers put together every year. It tracks all of our progress for design, construction, for the various SERP project features. But what we did here is we just clipped out the portion of the schedule that pertains to Locks River, and we highlighted in red the schedule for the Flowway 2 project features, since, again, the Flowway 2 features are within the ITID area. Just want to point out, you'll notice lots of different symbology here on the schedule, but everything in blue is the responsibility of the South Florida Water Management District. And in this case, the district is taking the lead on design and construction of the Locks River project, not the Corps. But we are working with them since they are our federal partners on that. In terms of design for the C18 West impoundment, we kicked that off last year upon execution of our design contract in July, I believe. That design period is supposed to run into about mid-2026. From that point forward, 2027 to 2031, we're looking to do construction. Following construction, there will be a 1 to 2 year operational testing and monitoring period that follows that. As you can see below the Flowway 2 C18 West impoundment schedule, you got the Flowway 2 ASR wells. Design and construction of those will come online after we kick off the construction on the reservoir, or impoundment, I should say. And I believe that is my last slide for this evening. And with that, I'll introduce Mike Tompkins, project manager for the C18 West, the Flowway 2 components, and he's gonna touch on the details for Flowway 2.
Can I just
Yes,
ask one
please.
question? Thank
Sure.
you. You said recreational feature. What
Yes.
are we looking at for that, just so the residents are aware of what
Sure.
might be
So yeah,
coming?
so we're looking at building a parking lot at the south end of the Mecca property. There will be a kayak canoe launch that would get folks into the impoundment. No motorized boats, just paddling, fishing, hiking, things of that nature. So
Is there going to be a permit required for the residents to utilize this, or?
I believe
Don't
that
know.
will be open to the public.
Okay.
I believe that's how we generally manage most of our rec features. So I envision that going the same, but we'll kind of work on those details, I think, towards the end of the design for the impoundment. But
Okay.
we definitely want to bring those rec features out to the public. I think there's a lot of benefit there.
I agree. So construction for something like that would be in the 2026 timeframe?
That would probably come at the tail end of the construction.
Once everything is done and then they'll-
Exactly.
right,
Yeah, the
okay.
heavy lifting will
Okay.
probably come first.
So about 8 years we're looking at before we see
Somewhere
something like
in
that,
that
roughly,
ballpark.
barring no complications. Okay.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yes.
With the Flowway 2 and the C18 and the environmental issues that you're doing there, one of the things that makes Indian, not Indian Town, but the development up that way, what's the,
Is it Avenir, the one to the
no,
east
the
there?
one up north and
Calusa?
off Indian Town.
Calusa?
No. Jupiter Farms.
Ah, there we go.
What winds up kind of protecting them is the fact that they are more environmentally sensitive because of the Latchatchee River and all running through that. Would some of these developments that you're talking about help preserve Indian Trail by making it more environmentally sensitive, some of these projects?
So that's a good point, right? So the Mecca property is an old orange grove, it's somewhere between 1,800 acres, and that could have easily gone the way of development. You know, you just take a look around, left or right, you see homes and businesses going up everywhere. So yes, so the Locks River project does actually provide some benefit to the ID in that regard, because once we build the impoundment, it'll be there in perpetuity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right. It's Jeff. Yep.
Could we go to the next slide? All right, super. So as Jeff said, thanks, Jeff. I'm Mike Tompkins. My primary responsibility is Flowway 2, and so I'm the project manager overseeing the construction of the impoundment. All right, so I'm just going to describe what is in Flowway 2, so the project features, the purpose, and where the water is going to come from here. So it's the C18 West impoundment. There's going to be 4 co-located aquifer storage and recovery wells, ASR wells. And the purpose of that is to provide water delivery to the northwest fork of the Loxahatchee River to achieve the restoration target flows. So water is going to be stored during the wet season and then recovered during the dry season to establish a more natural seasonal delivery of water to the river. We're going to capture water that would otherwise be delivered outside of the watershed to tide or to other areas, and redirect it to the northwest fork of the river, you know, with the right quantity and the quality and the timing, you know, and the distribution. So the sources of the water for the impoundment, primarily it's going to be surface water. It can come from the west side there, the J.W. Corbett Wildlife Management Area. It'll come from the upper basin in the ITID, and then on the north side of the impoundment from the C18 West Canal. We also will have those ASR wells, and so that will, when those are functional, we'll pump water down into the wells, and then we'll recover it, when necessary. Next slide. So this is a little bit more detailed look at the impoundment itself. So it's going to be a 9,500 acre-foot storage impoundment. It's going to sit on about a 1,620 acre footprint. The size of the embankment will be about 20.5 feet above the ground elevation, above the surface. That would correlate to 40.5 NAVD 88. The perimeter around the top of the embankment will be a little over 5 miles, 5.44 miles. The pool depth, so that'll be the depth of the water in the impoundment, will depend on operations, but it'll typically range between 4.5 to 7.5 feet, and the normal design depth is 7.5 feet. We also have on here 3 inflow pump stations, so those are the purple features that we can see on the map. There's one to the southwest corner, there's one sort of in the middle on the west side, and then another one to the north in the center there. We'll also have 2 outflow structures. Those are both going to be on the north end of the impoundment. That'll be in and out to the C-18 West canal. There'll be perimeter seepage canal. We've also got the gated and ungated culverts that are going to be placed within the interior seepage canal there for the most part. And then, since this is also a high hazard dam, the interior of the embankment is going to be lined with a soil cement mix, and that'll make it, more resistant to wave actions during a hurricane or something like that. It's a safety feature that the Army Corps has required because of the depth of the pool that we would have out there. With respect to a seepage barrier, because there could be impacts to the communities, surrounding the impoundment, there will be a seepage barrier at some point. We're still trying to determine what the location of that's going to be, but that'll be determined during the design process. Let's see, the M0 canal will provide inflow at the southwest corner, and then the C-18 West to the north. I think we kind of covered that a little bit up there higher. The 4 ASR wells, the location of the ASR wells is not determined yet. In this figure, we see them in the northwest corner of the impoundment, but the location is likely going to move. The sort of the leading location right now is going to be in the northeast corner of the impoundment, but that will all be determined during our design process. So just a little bit more information about the ASR wells. They're all 1,000 feet deep. Each well would be drilled to 1,000 feet. The recharge and recovery rate is 5 million gallons per day for each well, and so the combined capacity would be 20 million gallons per day. And then, as Jeff had alluded to, there'll be recreation features. Those will be, presently they're in the southeast corner over by that water pumping plant that the county has. The recreation features over there would include a parking lot, the kiosk that would describe the hiking and biking trails around the impoundment. There'll also be a canoe and kayak launch over there to launch into the impoundment. And we're evaluating whether or not equestrian use would be consistent with the project. And so we haven't got a decision on that yet, but we're going to consider that. Next slide, please. And so we anticipate that we're going to need an agreement between the ITID and the Water Management District. And, this is kind of a beginning to that, just to sort of let you know that at some point we're going to have to approach you guys with some of those details for the agreement. And the considerations for the agreement would be ingress and egress out of the, particularly out of this pump station that would be in the southwest corner. That you can see is the S109 pump station, and then the orange rectangle just to the north of that will be the M0 connector canal. So that's going to connect the M0 canal to the M0 connector canal, which will then connect to the seepage canal that goes around the impoundment. So the agreement would consider ingress and egress. It would consider the construction of that pump station, S109, and it would also describe how we would get water from the ITID, and that needs to be consistent with your water management. And then also just ongoing maintenance of the pump station and the canal that we've got there. So in the PIR, it says that, that the water would be pulled from the M0 canal when there's available capacity in the impoundment itself, and that the ITID also has excess water. And the stages that we have in here is that during the wet season, it would be 14.5 feet. In the dry season, it would be 15.5 feet. So a little bit stricter criteria during the dry season to pull water out of the ITID upper basin. Next slide, please. Okay, and so this is a conceptual drawing of what the impoundment might look like. This is from the southeast corner view. You can kind of see that recreation feature just above and to the left of the Palm Beach County Water Plant. Yes, right there. That's the location that we're anticipating those recreation features would be built. But all that stuff could change through design, but that's what was envisioned in the PIR. We are currently in preliminary design. That contract was executed in July of last year with Arcadis. The contract includes survey and geotech, which has the field work for that has been completed. We're expecting to wrap all of that work up in April of this year. The modeling would then kick off. That's underway right now. That will complete in July of this year. And then preliminary design would start after that. That would kick off around July of this year, and that would go through January of 2025. And then after that, we would go to intermediate and final design phases. I think that is my last slide. Yeah, next slide is just discussion. I don't know if you guys had any additional questions.
I'm curious, so the only way you can make this project happen is using our water?
No, there'll be water coming from the JW Corbett, from the C-18 West Canal, so there'll be a portion that would come from the ITID upper basin, but only when the water was available.
Okay, because I know they're currently trying to, rehydrate the Corbett. So how does that affect those plans? If they're trying to rehydrate it and then you're going to be taking water from there, so.
They're consistent, I think. And so we'll be building a levee around the southern end of Corbett, and then we'll also, as part of this project, there'll be another one that connects up on the eastern side. And so that'll allow Corbett to hold a little bit more water than it can presently. It'll also be safer, in the future if there are storms or something like that. And so I think the use of the Corbett water is consistent with the project. We aren't going to, dry out Corbett or anything like that in order to pull water out of there. And the idea really is that, we would harvest water during the wet season when there's too much, when we're, sending it, discharging it to the south, to the C-51, or maybe to the L-8 or to the ITID's impoundment out west. And rather than doing those things, we hopefully could grab a little bit and fill up our reservoir, or the impoundment rather.
And in the event that our water was low, are we looking at being able to, the district to get any of that water, or,
Oh, I see.
is it something that flows?
You guys share.
Yeah, yeah. Will it flow both ways,
Fair question.
if needed? I can't speak for my area. We have more than enough water, but that doesn't, not always the case.
Good question. So it'll go both ways at the north end of the project through the C-18. That's the connection. It'll have the ability to go both ways there, but not through the M0 connector canal.
Correct. As with the current design, and that
Through
is
the
with
chair.
a pump station, and we'll have to see if the pump station makes it through to final design. There's other discussions about what that structure might be in the southwest corner where the M0 connector canal connects up to it. But yeah, as Jeff points out, that's presently the consideration is just one way.
One way, okay. Go ahead.
Jay, I think that considering the fact that we have newer board members, that the history behind this is really kind of important, because there has been lots of planning and things that have happened in the past where ITID was supposed to be included to have some drainage. We ultimately don't get anything out of this, but our water is relied on as part of your modeling. One of the things that we've made clear as a board in the past is that we would not give water when we don't have water to give, that we're adamant about that. But there's some other things, and I understand that this has gone forward, it's at a federal level, it's at a state level, but there's some things that are just, and our former county commissioner, Melissa McKinley, is on the record as opposing this 20.5-foot wall that is going to be adjacent to our community. And that is something that our board also objected to, because we have fought since 2012 just to get funding for the state to do their own job with respect to the Corbett levy. And now we're going to go and build another levy. I'm not even certain that Lake Okeechobee is done. And it just seems really irresponsible to put that right beside thousands and thousands and thousands of homes. So there's concerns about that. In addition to that, I don't oppose personally there being a recreational aspect to this, but when I looked at your plan there, I didn't see the road that the county, the right-of-way that the county pulled back, and it's on our thoroughfare map, or it's supposed to be, that's supposed to go adjacent to that on the north, it would be your south side, our north side.
Right, yeah, that's the county-owned property.
Right. And one of our objectives is to ensure that that road gets built. And the reason for that is because we have limited roads in our area, and we need to relieve traffic off of North Lake. And so I want to make sure, because I don't see it there, that that road north of the district, because it's not district land, it was part of the whole scripts, and the county purchased it back. But that road needs to be built. It's the extension of Seminole Pratt, and that is very important to our community. And any park that you're going to put there, any access, any driveway, that's great. It can be accessed off the county road, not through ITID roads. So if looking at the map, we're trying to make some kind of connection to Greatview or 100th, I would completely object to that. So.
And I don't think that's not the plan at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the county's decision, what they want to do with that southern parcel, but that's open for them to do. We're not going to put any of these project features onto that parcel.
Okay,
So
just
the
let
access-
the record show that I personally, and I'm sure the board can weigh in on it, but I personally am consistent with our board's position, that we do not want Greatview being a thoroughfare road either, serving any of these developments. And the community has historically fought against 100th being used as a thoroughfare road and against Greatview being used as a thoroughfare road. And we encourage the county to purchase back the right-of-way, which they never should have given up in the first place because we had already paid for it as a taxpayer, but that's a whole other issue. But we really think that that road needs to be built. So how are you going to have that road built beside your rim canal and 20.5-foot berms, walls?
Right. So you can kind of see that parcel on the south side there. So it's got a bunch of trees on it in this drawing, but that would be, it's about 150 feet wide, that parcel at least, right? And so in discussions with the county, I think that's something that they're certainly considering still, is using that to build the extension to Seminole Pratt. But we would just have a small access road that would allow you to come off of Seminole Pratt, go just down to the recreation feature, and then you'd go right back the same way that you came. It wouldn't be a through fare.
Okay. And I also don't see the FPL transmission poles that are like 200 feet tall? Where
Yes.
are
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, we
They
just
are,
have-
they are also on the county-owned parcel on the south
Right.
side there.
But
Right.
you don't show them in your picture at all?
I think this may have predated the poles being
Okay.
installed out there when we had this conceived,
All right.
but they certainly are out there.
So I guess what I'm trying to convey is that I wonder if we even have enough land in that strip with the FPL transmission lines and the 20.5-foot wall, if there's enough of a buffer there and for future needs in the area. I don't know whether anybody has considered that, but, you know, it's a concern. It's a big concern. Water is a concern, and I love what you're doing, and I think this is much needed. But I also am very concerned about what's happening in our community with respect to traffic and not having the ability to widen roads because we have other municipalities that are fighting it. And so we have to look at every option that's available, and that was always supposed to be one of those, so.
If I may, can I add on? So Jennifer Leeds, I'm the bureau chief for our ecosystem restoration planning group for the water management district. And I want to say this is the exact reason why we wanted to come out here and talk to the board, right? We feel we're at a very good time to come out here and hear some of your concerns. As we go through the design of the project, we will be doing our due diligence, but I also want to let you know that we're going to be working with the ITID staff on those designs and taking in their recommendations and information, and then we're also going to be working with Burgess and his staff on the agreements that we need moving forward. So it is our plan to involve you and involve your staff as we're moving forward. We don't want to come here and say, we're the state, we're going to steamroll you and put a project in, right? That's not our intent at all. And then as we move forward with the design and as we get closer to beginning to construct the reservoir or the impoundment, we'll hold open house community meetings in the area where people can come in and we can talk with them and answer questions. And more importantly, give everyone contact information so if they have questions, they know who they can call and ask and get some information. So we don't plan to go away. We want your involvement, and certainly as we move forward and we look to how we're going to develop the operations of the impoundment, we need you. We need to make sure that we're getting it right. We're not going to inadvertently take water when your community needs it, but we're looking at those times when there is excess and you're looking to shed water and it's maybe going out to tide, we can capture that. And then the whole purpose of having an impoundment is what we call carryover. So as we get into the dry season, having a source of water for the Loxahatchee, right, that northwest scenic portion of Loxahatchee, because right now the headwaters has been cut off. It was cut off by the Central and Southern Flood Control Project, and so we look at the impoundment as helping to assist and replace some of those headwaters that the river needs, but we don't want to do it to the detriment of ITID or any other area. So that's really our motive for coming here and to listening your concerns. I can tell you that as we move forward with design of impoundments, and right now the Water Management District is constructing some very large reservoirs, C-43 reservoir, we're about to let a contract out up in St. Lucie County to build a very large reservoir up there. Some of the features that you put in around impoundments and reservoirs are seepage canals. So if there's water seeping out, it gets collected in the canal. We're also evaluating with the what we call the embankment, the levee that goes around it, putting in a cutoff wall to help prevent that as well. So we will go through all that analysis and put in those safety features into the embankment to help protect the community that's around it.
So
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Okay, Keith?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the conceptual design. We need water storage. I would like you to, like you said, talk with Burgess, because it'd be nice to have in and out. So if we need it, you need it, partnership, more safety features, I think, like Betty was saying, to make sure. I'd like to see a more conceptual map so I can really see where the roads are surrounding this and the north, south, east, west directions. And lastly is, I think all of us here would rather have water storage there than another 5,000 homes. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I think Scripps was supposed to be a lot more than 5,000.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you for that. Actually, thank you to those who legally challenged it and prevailed, right? My follow-up question relates to the equestrian trail. You were looking at that in terms of on the embankment. And we recently, I'm not sure how familiar you are with the discussions we were having with GL Homes and what they were proposing for their water storage. But during that discussion, we had also, as a board, requested that we have equestrian trail around there. And I believe it was Paul Linton from the county who was here, and they had spoken up and basically said that they did not think that that would be acceptable at all and be approved by South Florida Water Management. As we are a designated equestrian community, and because of the fact that we have a number of our historical trails basically being eliminated or ignored even from the county's past plans, it is something that is important to the equestrian in our community and something that's important to me and I think to my fellow board members, that we bolster our equestrian community, that we do things that encourage them to continue to ride and to have places to go and ride, because there used to be a time when you could ride on our roads, our dirt roads. You could cross the paved roads without, fearing for your life. Now you can't even go down, a dead-end dirt road without fear that some jerk is going to do something that is very unsafe. So it's becoming more and more important. We don't want to lose our equestrian community. We don't want to lose that character. So if you could advocate for that and that connectivity, that would be great, because we also have our trail kind of goes up to that point. And so that might be some things to talk about in the design in terms of an equestrian bridge to cross over across the canal or something from the equestrian trail on Great View and 100. You know where I'm talking about? Yeah. Okay. So, and then of course the connectivity on the west side to 94th, all of that area. So anyway, that's all. Maybe that was more of a statement than a question, but I guess you guys are saying that you're looking into it, right?
Yes, certainly going to consider it, right. Not on top of the embankment, that we know for sure is out, but yeah, around, the access roads around the bottom would be something that we can consider.
All right, thank you.
Jay, you have a question?
A couple comments and a question, and certainly I would give the board the background if you so wanted that to be on an agenda. In Flowway 3, the pump station, which would come from Indian Trail, is very important to this board, so don't forget that we would have to okay that as well. That's from our upper or lower basin. I'm not sure where you located it. So
one, on the end canal.
Yeah, so
yes, exactly.
You didn't mention that was part of us, but that is something that we have objected to, and the board has objected to in the past. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
I really do hope ASR works. Just to let the board understand, 20 million gallons per day is about 30 CFS. 30 CFS.
Right.
As a flood control district, we're interested in real peak flows, like where a pump station's 1,100 CFS, 30 CFS over time helps and it stores, but it's not a flood control measure, just so you understand that. Seminole Pratt, I'm glad you mentioned it.
And it has to be clean water that you're doing with the ASR wells, right?
It has to meet drinking water quality standards before we can pump it down. We have to treat it before we even send it down, so yeah. When it comes out, it's treated again. So the safety with the ASR wells is a top concern.
Right.
So the question I have is on pump station S109. What
109, yes.
What is the capacity of that in either CFS or MGD?
I believe it's 175 CFS. That would be from the M0 to the M0 connector canal. Yeah, that's what I've got here.
So it's possible if storage is available, we could get up to 175 CFS, which would be a big advantage. And did you plan to do any improvements to the MO canal at that area between our L Canal and Seminole Pratt Whitney Road?
L canal.
Well,
That's the one
the
that
canal that
runs.
you're connecting to is a very narrow, and it's
We would
not.
have to probably look at that to make the plumbing work. You know, conceptually, that's kind of where we're anticipating putting the pump
Yeah,
station.
we have a gated, I think it's a 72-inch aluminum pipe on the
Yes.
west end of that.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure you're going to get any flow unless you change that structure as well, so that'll be something you need to address in your design.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Something to talk about in the future for sure.
And as they are doing that Corbett levee on the south side, I think there may be some improvements to the canal at that point, but we still have to evaluate whether or not those are going to be sufficient to support the pump station down there.
We can talk in detail about design, and just let the board know that those are things that will come up in the future.
Yep. Appreciate your insight.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
Welcome.
Patty? Good? Thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation and all the information, and we look forward to working with you for the benefit of our community and the river. Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.3 and 6.4 have been deleted. PBSO and Fire Rescue could not be here this evening. So we're going to move on to item 7. Item 7 is governmental updates, and this is about a notice that the landowners recently received. Before we get started, there are going to be many concerned residents that we want to hear from. So before we do that and have any conversation and take public comment on this, I'm going to turn the meeting briefly over to our counsel, who has a statement to make.
Okay, good evening. With regards to this matter, as the attorney for the district, our firm, we're requesting an attorney-client session per Florida statute with regards to this matter. So what we would be asking is certainly to receive input from the public, but with the understanding that we're not going to make this board make a final decision tonight.
Very good. And then we'll have a special meeting
Yes, and that would be.
immediately following the executive session.
There would be an attorney-client session, and as part of that, you need to first start with a special meeting, and then you conduct your attorney-client session, you adjourn that, and then you open it up to that special board meeting, if there's any action that would be taken as a result of that.
And then discuss that with the public at
Yes.
that time. Okay.
That's correct.
All right, so, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No,
Through
it's
the chair,
okay.
Just to add on to that, so the plan right now with the special litigators is that we would have the traffic engineering firm, CapTech, and the district engineer give a board presentation about traffic modeling from the litigation, and also allow the public to be there as well
And, okay, and that's at the special meeting?
on the 12th.
Gotcha, okay.
Following the
Yep.
executive session.
Okay,
Through
very
the
good.
chair. Mary, can you please clarify, because
Certainly.
the shade session is not relating to this matter specifically. The shade session is related to our litigation
Yeah,
and,
okay.
and the correlating issue.
It's related to settlement negotiations with regards to our desire to receive advice from the board concerning that particular sin into litigation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, do we have any comment cards for the notice to landowner for agenda item 7.1? No. Okay, moving
There
on.
was a number of
Number of
emails.
emails.
We did have emails, yes, we did. So, now, this is a good question, forgive my ignorance. Do we receive and file those emails and make them part of the public record, or will we do that at the special meeting?
You could do it either way.
Okay. Do we
Through
need a
the chair.
consensus for that, or?
Well, it's just
is it
direction from the
just-
board, and we usually then go ahead and have the board accept those comments. You
Okay,
can
because
certainly
I
do
think
that.
that's very important, that the public is part of the record. We all get to see the emails, but not everybody else does, so
Right.
I think that's important. Go ahead.
Through the chair, those emails become part of the public record, and they'll be part of the backup when staff shares, correspondence received. But my recommendation is that we actually have them, because we don't have them here, so I don't know which ones you guys have received and which ones.
As opposed,
Yeah,
right,
so, and you may
so we
have
could do that
received-
for the next
So I would
meeting.
suggest that we bring them, make sure that at least staff has received every one that we've individually received. I know some have been copied to all, but I know there's a few
Not
that I've
all,
received
right.
that have not gone to all.
And we've received some phone calls as
Right.
well.
So my recommendation is that we bring that for discussion at the shade session or the special meeting and receive and file it there.
Okay, perfect.
And that also gives the community the opportunity to continue to send letters
For,
and
right,
emails, et
correct.
cetera.
Beautiful, excellent, okay.
Just one last thing. The date, it occurred to me afterwards, when, I think the date that staff was looking at was March 12th for this. And the
Tuesday.
planning meeting is on March 8th, so I just wanted to,
Yeah, we
Okay.
know, yeah,
You're aware.
yeah.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, we could not have the posting and proper advertisement.
Since it was just
so,
requested
Yeah.
tonight.
Unfortunately.
Right, which is another thing that it's interesting
How
how,
quick?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, moving on to our regular agenda, item 8.1. We are going to consider the selection of a contractor and award the contract for construction of 1 Hamlin Boulevard from 190th Street North to Kalamundin Boulevard, which is the R-302. And secondly, Hamlin Boulevard from Kalamundin to 180th Avenue North, R303, pursuant to ITB 2024-002 and the R3 Road Construction Program. And I want to say yay on this, because I know everybody out in the community is going to be so happy when this work is done. They might not be happy during it, but please, if you're listening, bear with us. We want to make this happen just as much as you do. I drive this road, and I get it. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jay.
All right, as in the R3 program, this is the next sequential. It's two road segments of the 11 that are going to be paved, and this is a mile section, the two combined, half mile each. As you'll recall, the washboard, it's even worse than that. It's a little more like a slalom, a snowboard slalom, that when you go, especially the west half, the cost is high because of that. The design engineer, Captech, after seeing the geotech and actually doing the design, put a geotextile material underneath the fully reclaimed road. Unfortunately, it's needed. It drives up cost. And one question that will be asked is, what was in the R3 plan? The combined cost was 1.2 million. This bid is 1.9 million. So it's substantially more. I have said before, and I will say again, that we will probably need to go out to bond again. There's plenty of benefit in the cost-benefit analysis, but with the increases in cost that have been slammed, I talked to Joe Capper this morning, or this afternoon. Base has doubled, and asphalt has gone up by over 30%. So from the time we did the R3 plan to now, that's just material cost. That doesn't even include in construction. The bids were very, very close and very, very good. I don't know if you saw the bid tabulation, but Ranger, who is one of the most experienced and known paving contractors, came in at $1,859,096.01. I'm not sure why they put the penny on there.
Every penny counts. But
They
your
were
pennies,
they were the
dollars take
lowest
care of themselves.
responsible and responsive bidder. The next was MJC, who was extremely close, $1,890,000. You don't typically get bids that close. The next was even close at $2,011,000. So the bids were very tightly grouped. The three evaluators, Aaron, myself, and Rob went through this, and we got a lot of questions, but apparently we satisfied all the questions. We are recommending Ranger because they are the lowest bid, and we did go through the full evaluation to make sure you understand that. And I don't think I have any other comments. Did you, Rob or Aaron, want to add anything to that? No. Okay.
So do we need a motion to approve?
Future.
There's several motions that would need to be done as you look at it.
I have a question. So are we ready to give a notice to proceed, like, as soon as this is approved? Because I see that it says 130 days, construction period to commence 130 days from the notice to proceed. So are we ready to give a notice to proceed right away? And are we really having to wait 130 days?
Frank should answer that one. I mean,
Yeah, we'll need a contract, and we'll need a bond before the notice to proceed can be issued.
Okay.
But the contract should be out by next week. I'll prepare it for signature next week. And then the Ranger should be arranging with their surety to get the bond on the amount of the construction
All
contract.
right. All right. Thank you.
And then staff will issue the notice to proceed. But we can't proceed until we get the bond.
And when, just not directly related to this, but when is 140th Tangerine and 61st coming back?
I also talked to Joe about that. We're shooting for an award at the May board meeting, which means the plans have to be done, has to go out to bid, we have to evaluate, but we're shooting for May right now.
Okay.
It's under construction, under design. Unfortunately, we still have some hang-ups with survey, but we're still shooting for May to get it to you.
And do we think that we're going to need additional funds before we get there? Because
No.
if we do, then we need to be talking about that.
No, one of the reasons we left 180th to last was it's going to be the more expensive job, and we should have plenty of money in the bond before we hit 180th. We should be able to do every road except that.
Okay.
And so with the geotech being done, do we have concerns that we're going to run into issues that it's going to rise the cost like we had on 162nd?
Well, this is the bid, so
Right.
you know the
So-
cost right now.
So if they come in and they find something else,
We-
that's it.
We
We're not
have
giving them a
done,
cost plus.
we've done all the studies, that is the price.
So-
And with the geotech, we're very confident it will hold up.
Okay.
We do not believe, again, I had this conversation with Joe earlier this afternoon, that we will not need the geotech on the other roads, even though the geotech report didn't come back as good sub-basin base. It did come back that it wasn't as loose material, it wasn't as bad as.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Mm.
So my understanding in past discussions when we were planning this was that that road would need to be torn completely up, demucked, and then rebuilt. So we're not trying to do this a different way, that we're going to use some material. I want to make sure that we're not going to have this problem again in 5 years, 10 years.
Right, we believe that that is the case. We didn't find muck, we found a bunch of bad sand and silt. So we did not find muck, so it's not going to compress over time. But when you have that loose stuff, it moves around. So the geotech and the full road rebuild, which they're mixing the existing pavement in and making that the base, and then they'll put asphalt on top of that. Geotech, you remove all the material, mix it up, grind it up, put a geotech material down, and then you put the ground up material, and then you put asphalt on top of that. So we believe 100% that this road will hold up. And it's not county standards, this is Indian Trail standards. Let me make sure you understand that. Our structural number is our standard structural number. It is not the county thoroughfare road type number.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have a motion?
I made the motion, but you said it's.
There's several
Oh, I'm
motions
sorry.
that are
Yeah.
outlined in your agenda that are required.
Okay, so.
There's four.
Four. So we're going to do them each separately, correct, Mary?
Sure, I think
Okay.
we should.
I think so, too.
I'll make a motion to receive and file the 3 bids.
Yeah, Joe Capra is on the phone if you had any questions directly of him. In my
Thank-
conversation, I
you-
think
you
we.
answered. Yeah, no, you
we
you
already
answered my
covered this.
questions anyway,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, you may want to get input, if not,
Public
but then we
comment,
need to
right.
have public comment too.
Okay, very
Do-
good.
Do I make one motion after the other, or just can I run them
I would
all
do
in?
one at a time.
Okay.
I think so, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so do you want to read the whole thing, or into the record, please?
Okay. Motion to receive and file the 3 responses to the ITB 2024-2002, 002, from MJC Land Development LLC, R&D Paving LLC, and Ranger Construction Industries Incorporated.
Okay, do you have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passes.
Public input.
Michael?
We can have,
Oh,
We need
we
public
can
input.
Oh,
have
public
public
com-
comment after we vote, as long as we don't,
Well-
we have it at the same meeting, correct? Or-
Supposed to have it
before, okay.
before.
Before you actually call.
So we're
Okay.
going to do public comment
Do
on
we-
each one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any public comment?
What? We're going to have public comment on each motion?
Right now.
Wow, okay.
I'll see it.
Luckily,
Okay,
nobody's like
anybody
chomping at
online,
the bit.
Carrie? No, okay, so there's no public comment, so let's proceed. Michael?
He said aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Okay, so passes 5-0. Second, B, motion to waive any minor irregularities in the bid responses not related to the price, the scope, or the project schedule. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Keith, second?
Second.
Patty, all in favor?
Do we-
Aye.
Do we
Any
have to do
comments?
motion comment?
Oh, public comment, I'm
Motion
sorry.
Is there
comment.
any comments?
Any public comment? Anybody online? No, okay.
Okay.
If you have public comment for any of these, please just raise your hand. Okay, so just want to make sure we're not missing anybody, because I want to hear from everybody. Okay, so we had a motion from Keith, a second from Patty, and all in favor, 5-0. C, motion to accept the bid and award the contract to construct Hamlin Boulevard from 190th Street North to Columbundon Boulevard and Hamlin Boulevard from Columbundon to 180th Avenue North to Ranger Construction Industries, Inc. in the amount of $1,859,096.01 as the lowest responsive bid from the responsible vendor. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Keith? Second?
Second.
Patty? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, make public comment?
Oh, God, oh, my God, it's like a mental block tonight. Well, nobody raised their hand before, so public comment? No. Okay.
Michael.
Last one?
Michael?
In favor, yes.
Okay. Passes 5-0. All right, last one, motion to authorize the president to execute the attached contract subject to final legal and engineering review.
Motion.
Keith?
Second.
Patty? Public comment?
There you go.
All right.
Fourth time's the charm.
Oh, my gosh, okay. All right, no, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Okay,
So he's busy
passes
looking into
5-0.
George's eyes.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, now we're ready for some other governmental updates, and back to Mr. Foy.
Okay. DRO, I've given you what is in process. I don't have a new DRO that affects us directly. The West End project, that's the one on Seminole Pratt and North Lake on that southeast corner. That still they haven't responded with the concerns, so that one's still in limbo. They responded with a whole bunch of information that satisfied other commenters, but not the drainage part. I did.
Jay, when you say "they," are you referring to the county or are you referring to the applicant?
The applicant
Okay.
responded with several items, and the commenters, which includes the county, to other requests. They did not respond to the request by Indian Trail. So
Okay.
that's still outstanding.
Okay.
As requested, the family church, I notified the engineer that we, the district, the board, we as the board, did have serious concern to oppose the mid-block pedestrian crossing on Banyan. And the Muslim Community Center has satisfied all the comments, including the acknowledgement of needing to meet the requirements of Indian Trail. So that one has actually met the requirements of all the agencies at this stage. So,
Aren't they accessing an ITID road as well?
yes, the county, we talked about that. The county requires them not to use Seminole Pratt. In fact, they had applied to use Seminole Pratt, and the county said that as part of the ULDC, they don't allow connections to a county thoroughfare road if another road connection is available. I made that concern early on, and the county just said, well, that's what they require. I also wrote an email to David Ricks as requested that specifically stated that.
Through the chair. I'd like to ask legal to actually research this and provide an opinion to the board about that, because I don't know, we keep running into this, and I don't know, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Can we please research it and provide an opinion as it relates to the county requiring, because not for nothing, this is institutional, which is not any different than commercial or industrial or anything else, and there's access requirements according to the county code. Those access requirements, these are local streets. So I think we need to really be looking at that. If we objected to the previous church that was on 130th, because again, it was a local street that the county has no authority over. The residents objected to it. It got killed. Just because this is on Seminole Pratt doesn't make it any better. In fact, it makes it worse for those other landowners that live on those little short roads. So,
Do we know, was notice sent to the residents surrounding this project, or is that not time for that yet in the county process?
Frank could probably address it better than I. And when you go through zoning changes, there are notice requirements within a certain footage.
We
right.
don't
do that.
No, I know we don't, but when, in other words, when in the county's timeline of the process, do the residents get notified? After the DRO is approved?
I don't, do you know that,
It's through
Frank?
the
It may not have been done yet at the county, because it has to proceed to be put on the agenda for, I assume, depends what kind of action this is. Is this an administrative approval, or is this something that has to go to the Board of County Commissioners? But at some point, there would be notice. There is required to be notice to the neighbors, but usually within 300 feet of the property boundary.
300.
and usually it's once they've filed an actual application, right? So if you're in a pre-information meeting, they haven't been required to do
Probably
any of that.
not.
It's not until they have a formal application filed and are in the process. But a lot of people don't understand and don't know,
Right.
and they think that the county can just do whatever they want, and it's not the case, so.
In keeping with what Benny's saying, it's like, I personally know that, I don't know if they can change the rules, but we live on acre and a quarter, acre and a half. There was a cell tower put up in my backyard, and 300 feet was like an empty lot and one house, so nobody else around there could say, we don't want to cross cell tower in our backyard, and it went up. So I have an issue with the fact that people that are going to be affected aren't within that 300 feet, but they're within 1,000 feet, and they are going to be affected.
And then
Sure.
some. Good.
Okay, so county said they can't have access to Seminole Pratt. Is that what county said?
The county says that you cannot have access to a thoroughfare road if you have another access. If you had no other access, like the parcel didn't have a road on either side, this one has, I think it's 62nd on the south side, they are requiring the applicant to connect to 62nd. Now, the road from Seminole Pratt to their entrance, all the way through their property, actually will be paved. But again, that's the county requirement in the ULDC.
So, I'm sorry. The church that you're talking about, do they have an access road besides Orange?
No.
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 There's what, a
And
canal or something
and I'll
that
tell
runs
you
there?
why, because the community and ITID said, hell no, you're
But
not
that's
having
why
a
I'm
connection
asking.
to
But-
130th.
but that's what I'm asking. They
They're
are
not
on
allowed to
one-
park on 130th either.
Okay,
Well,
let me,
that's-
wait, time out. Let me finish asking
on.
my question. So what I want to clarify is, there's a road that they could have connected to, but they connect to Orange, which is a county road, right? But they had a secondary to 130th, and they didn't use it.
We didn't give it to them.
Right, we didn't give it to them. But this, so this is the same scenario here, yes? They have, they could have on 130th, but they're connecting to Orange, correct?
Yep.
Correct. So if they could do it there and allow them to have Orange as an access, they should be able to do the same at this center here. Yes, on the Seminole Pratt and not touch 62nd.
Sounds logical.
It sounds-
So we can use an example that this was already done at another
There's
facility.
precedent.
Yes. thank
Through the
you.
chair, I do think, I'm not 100% certain, but I do think that there's a difference in the allocation of the road type, i.e. collector road versus arterial road. And the county does have a policy, but my point is that the county also has a policy that we are rural residential, and that we have an underlying land use of 2.5 acres. And they also have rules that you cannot have commercial on less than 5 acres. And they have other rules that you can't, so, you know, there's a ton of rules, but they waive them when it's convenient. And I think we just need to push back on those things. In particular, as it relates for ITID, the community has another issue, but as it relates to ITID, it relates to the responsibilities and the authorities that we do have.
Through the chair.
I agree.
It's gonna be interesting in watching that church we're talking about, because all of a sudden, they're putting 4 portable classrooms on that building, on that property, which is overcrowding that property, and they might try to push out to 130th to accommodate that extra, taken up, you know, I don't know how they're gonna have, their parking lot's only so
Violation.
much, so I don't know how they're gonna put more cars.
Their zoning approval actually prohibited a school there and prohibited that,
It's
all of
there.
that. I'm just telling you.
Okay.
All right, one other comment, and this is, I don't mean to expand the conversation on 40th, 140th, but the big change in the letter that came out last week, I think it was, is they, instead of 70 feet of right-of-way, they want the full 80 feet. So that impacts to the residents quite substantially. 10 feet, that might not sound like much, but when you have a 40-foot right-of-way, and it's a difference between 70 and 80 feet, the road will be very close to the front doors.
Yeah.
Through the
All
chair.
right, th-
In keeping with that too, I was just notified this past week that they're tearing up within the next 2 years. They're tearing up in front of my house, Orange Boulevard, to put drainage and repave the road. So I don't know if that means it's gonna all of a sudden within the next 2 years be 5 lanes or what they planning on doing, but that'll be in my front yard too. So it's like they're
Well,
like
that was the
dividing,
plan.
conquering us. They got all this stuff going on, and, you know, we're sitting back going, what's
Can't
going
keep
on?
up, yeah, keep up.
Okay, thank you.
Orange Boulevard does need drainage, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
moving
what
on.
I've seen.
Yeah, my front of my house doesn't flood.
All right.
Oh,
Do you have
through the
anything,
chair.
or?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I have a few
All right,
things.
so, well,
Sorry.
should we
It's
do
up to
public
you.
comment first, if you're?
That's fine.
Are you gonna, I don't wanna
No, 'cause
rush
I'm
you,
gonna be-
so.
Yeah, I've got a few things. that
Yeah,
will
let's
take a
do
few
public
And then can we
comment.
do a break after public comment?
Absolutely, and then we'll have Mr. Hanson. This one? Okay.
All right, so we have a card from Renee Hamilton. She wants to address 2 agenda items, 11.8 and 11.1. That would be on the consent. And then a non-agenda item of trucks. And also, okay, item 10 for trucks. Okay.
Okay, so on the consent,
She can comment under public comment.
on
Yeah, 'cause
consent,
unless
okay.
it's been pulled, and it hasn't been pulled.
Okay, got it, okay. Renee?
Renee Hamilton, 1793 Temple Boulevard. Do I talk about all the things that I put on the card at one time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So one, I would like to say that I was disappointed to see that Indian Trails took a vicious stance against the truckers in the community. I think everybody here already knows how I feel, but I did want it to be on record at this meeting that Indian Trails should really be taking into consideration of what all of the residents want and not one half or the other, or aggressively going after another part. So that's my opinion. I wanted to voice it. I looked at a couple of things on the financials, and I don't really know, not on the financials, but on the disbursements and the things that are over 35,000 to be paid out. And I just had a lot of concern in seeing so much going on with millings. And the reason that I'm looking at it was because I saw the dump trucks, which I complained about, going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down Mandarin, a million times loaded AAA, A1, Indian Trails dump trucks. So there were a lot of things that just kind of was to me like, why are we driving from one end of the acreage to the other end of the acreage, hauling stuff back and forth while we're working in one area, and why aren't we making use of space that we have on the north end when we're working on the north end rather than going back and forth? Anyhow, I just wanted to point out a couple of things because you have two items on the over 35,000 for AAA and for A1A, and in actuality, A1 AAA Garden Center, it is a total of 114,000 that we paid out in the month of January, and Allied Trucking 330,000 with $20,000 in credits. And I definitely can see that your AP person is on the ball, whoever that may be. There were 13 credits totaling over 20,000 for revised invoices for Allied Trucking, which would be a concern that we're seeing a lot of inconsistencies coming through. Yes, they're being caught, but why are we getting overcharged for things? I also wanted to point out that based upon a $187,000 in milling haulings in a 19-day period, it's running about 10,000 per day to haul millings, equaling 26 loads per day, and that's probably all that traffic I was seeing going back and forth up and down Mandarin. However, I also want to point out on two particular days, 12/14 and 12/15, we were invoiced for $27,000 each of those days, which would be the equivalent of 72 loads. And I can't believe that one trucking company that's doing normally $10,000 worth of trucking on a day all of a sudden did $27,000 worth of trucking. Or if we're paying them extra because it's closer to a holiday or overtime, I don't know, but normally you don't pay a trucker overtime, you pay them the rates. So I was concerned with what I was seeing. And then additionally, I wanted to point out that this does include some of November, a week. Majority is November, December, January, but 827 full dump truck loads that were going from, based upon what I can see, over strictly, there are variations, but the majority over into the area where I live off 180th and Temple, going up and down Mandarin. So I wanted to point out that Indian Trails has a lot of abuse going on the roads, and a lot of money that isn't really accurately, I think, accounted for properly. I'm not saying that you didn't have a great accounting notice today, because you did, but I think that there's more that needs to be looked at when we're spending $500,000 this month in hauling something back and forth, and I see it being hauled inappropriately from one area to another area and back. So I think there's something that we could do in that, and maybe we could take a look at it. So that's all I have, If you have a question?
No. Thank you.
So, all right, thank you.
Was that all of her items, or?
I would assume she said 11.8, 11.1 in trucks.
Okay,
I would assume
very
she knew what
good.
she wanted to talk about.
All right, so 5-minute break, is that good for everybody?
There's no anybody online?
No.
Nope.
Keith, you good, 5 minutes?
10 minutes, just 10 minutes.
10 minutes? 10 minutes, okay, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. Do I need to?
A motion.
A motion, hold on, I need a motion to take a break.
I make a motion to take a break. Do I
Okay.
get a second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Michael?
I don't think.
He's staring at his baby's eyes.
We're taking a 10-minute break before we get to Burgess, okay? Okay.
Recording stopped.
Are you ready? Because you're up. Okay. So we're ready to move on. Mr. Hanson, with your presentation?
Yeah, this is actually on the other government
Mhm.
update still. However, I'm just gonna, what I had under executive director report, I'm just gonna work it into this because it's all other governmental affairs anyway.
Excellent, thank you.
So just quickly, the first item is I did reach out to the town of Loxahatchee Groves, and they are sending letters to follow up on those properties that should not have access to 162nd Drive North, because we have some of those southern properties, and a couple of them are crop producing, so there's a lot of traffic coming in and out. So they are taking the necessary code action on that. And we did send them the backup on the settlement, so they're aware. Second thing that I talked to Locks Groves about, it was the manure issue. So again, code enforcement will be investigating that, and that's about all we can do. It's in their municipal boundaries. And the third thing is, at their last town of Loxahatchee Groves meeting, there was inaccurate information. So I did discuss with the town manager of Loxahatchee Groves the other day that she needs to clarify and clear the record at the next meeting, because what they what one of the town council members said is that the Indian Trail Improvement District put a guardrail at 43rd and 140th, and it shouldn't be a guardrail, it should be a gate. And they voted 4-1 because I was at that meeting, and so was Miss Argue. She was the board president at the time, and the town council and a property owner nearby who was paying to build a paved road requested that it be a guardrail. We were originally just going to put up the same gate system that we have on 140th and 40th. So she will be clearing that up next Tuesday at their meeting, because that's just wrong statement. So, and it'll incite different issues. Yeah.
Can I add a comment to that?
Sure.
Because I was at the recent meeting where it was brought up by a couple board members, town council members. And the other thing that's really important to know about that is that that was a negotiated settlement or agreement with that landowner, and the town had the ability to design that road however they needed to design it. So it's a little, I don't know. It's a little, that is not because of us. It's because of whatever they've done on their end, and that's not our responsibility. So.
Thank you.
Yep. Then the next thing is dealing with Palm Beach County Engineering. We still have not heard back from David Ricks or any of his staff regarding doing a one-way pilot program, one-way street pilot program on 120th Avenue, nor have we heard back about the all-way stops at the various intersections. So we will be following up with him. And I'm also going to be reaching out to him. We did, and when I saw him last week, I said, we never heard if he wanted to pay to have that milled, but now they're actually having some structural issues with that road, so we will have to fix that, and we will be charging him for that because if we maintain it. If they do not want us to do that, then I'm going to come back to this board and recommend we terminate the contract because we can't grade and maintain something that's not suffice. So, which leads me to one of the issues that I was going to speak about during the executive director report that we put on written. And that is talking with Mr. Foy and Joe Capra, who's our traffic engineer, Rob Robinson, and Jason Lester. As you know, we've been spending approximately $18,000 to put in speed tables that are made from asphalt. And Joe Capra had actually found, and Jason now has subsequently found other companies that will actually build those speed tables, the Dutch or Seminole style speed tables, to go on not only do we think they can go on paved roads, but we think they can also go on milled roads. So that, the cost for one of those tables is approximately a little over $8,100. So it's a significant drop in per table costs, but also the tables that we used to use, that existing, the rubber ones, those now are right around $800. I think when I first came here, they were, they were much more than that. I can't remember. It was like $1,400 or $1,500, I think.
Actually went down?
Yeah, so those actually went down. So the reason why I'm here tonight is I don't necessarily need a motion, but I'd like to at least get some consensus from the board, if it's possible for us just to get a couple of them to put on the for instance, Persimmon or Tangerine, or even, what was the other road I was just talking about? Orange Grove. Yeah, to test those out to see how they work. They are compatible. I forgot to tell you this with PBFR, Palm Beach Fire Rescue. I did talk to them, including their fire marshal, about it, and did not seem to be any problem with doing that. And then we would like to put a couple of the smaller ones like we used to have, since they're $800, on some of the milled roads, maybe Tangelo or other R3 roads that we milled, just to test them out. So if board doesn't have, and I'm not talking about buying a lot of them, just a few of them of each, so we can see how it does. And then in the upcoming fiscal year budget process, we may, if it looks like everyone is acceptable, we may recommend doing more, because you can do basically 2 of those, 2 1/4 of those for what we can for our paved speed table.
To the chair.
Yeah.
Is it in the budget?
Yeah, we have operational money that we can spend. So I mean, we're
approved
talking
so many at a higher cost, so
Yeah.
we could reduce the
Yeah.
cost. Anything we can do to reduce cost is.
And safety, I'd make a motion to approve.
Well, I don't
Well,
think we
he
need a
doesn't need a
motion. I just
motion,
need
just a
consensus.
consensus
Because I'm
to-
only going to get
To do
one
like
or two.
like a pilot.
Yep.
So, fire rescue, is it not as high? Is it not as wide?
So
What
the
makes them
smaller
like
one-
it more?
Well, the smaller ones, they can straddle with a fire
Right.
engine, and on a smaller length of road, they like those. The other one is just like a Seminole speed table or a, what's it called? Dutch. Thank you, Rob. So you have a gradual slope up, flat, and then gradual slope down. So that's why they like those, or why they would be acceptable. But again, I don't think anybody has really used any of those in this area that I'm aware of. I believe Joe Capra said they were using them, I think, was it Martin County or Port St. Lucie? One of those 2 places, but not as widespread, but he said that it seemed to work.
They're having success with it?
Yep.
But that's not the only reason you're here.
Yeah, I was, I'm like chomping at the bit to say, is that the only reason why you're here?
The reason I'm here tonight.
Yeah. The reason why I'm here.
Yeah. So,
I think you're here for more than that, but
Yeah.
I do have a
I'm
question.
sorry.
yep.
With respect to the old ones that we had, did we ever figure out the configuration so that it worked for fire rescue to properly straddle it?
Through the chair, we looked at that design. That's the way they're manufactured. So the length, the width of it is pre-manufactured. So we have noted, we can't change that. We can't alter it. We can the length.
Okay.
So as far as the width, as Mr. Hanson said, they can straddle over those with very little deflection of the suspension or comfort to the patient, basically what it comes down to.
So have we received feedback from fire rescue on that? Because, I mean, that was
Yes.
the whole reason why we went with that design, was that it was specifically so fire rescue could be able to straddle that and it not impact the ride. And if that is, $800 and it works, I'm not opposed to trying, some of the other ones. And I agree that those smaller ones work on the smaller roads. I think the people on West Allen Black west of Cheatham Hill are very happy that they're there, and one of the things that I hear more often than not, except for on Facebook, but from the residents that live on the roads, they want more traffic calming, not less. So now the people that are cutting through on roads, and usually the ones that are actually flying and not obeying the traffic laws to begin with, they're the ones that I find tend to complain about it. But it is a safety issue. So my question really was, have we heard any feedback from fire rescue on those old ones?
So, Mr. Robinson and I, which was the next thing I was going to get into with fire rescue, he and I took the fire marshal, district fire chief Amanda Vomero, who you've seen here a couple of times, and then it was one of the deputy chiefs. So, yeah, higher up, like a deputy to the fire chief. We took them on a tour of the district and showed them the different speed tables and also different areas, because they were somewhat unfamiliar with it because they're newer. Fire marshal had a little bit more experience out here, but for the most part, we took them to areas where they wouldn't normally go, and I brought up, but we discussed about those rubber mats, and then also about the one-way concept that we're currently trying to work with Palm Beach County Engineering. They were not opposed to that, and part of the reason why they wouldn't be opposed to that is, if you recall what we talked about in that concept, would be that we wouldn't take up any millings or any roadway. What we do is put striping down, so if they needed to, they can go up a down, or down and up, or however you want to look at it. So they did not have a problem with that safely. Great. Because they would basically have a whole lane, and if we even get to that level. And 120th was the other one where I thought we could put a couple of the actual bigger speed, the Seminole speed tables. So, because we are, just on 120th, sometimes on a Friday or Saturday night, we've clocked, I think it was 90 plus miles per hour. Yeah. So they're drag racing because, so anyway, sorry.
As I recall, when we were doing the engineering design or discussion of what was going to go into Unit 20, one of the concerns that the residents there also had was, especially on Carroll Street, traffic calming, and one of the things that we said, if we were doing millings, then we would not be able to do traffic calming, because that was our opinion at that time. Yep. So if we're going to test pilot these on a millings road, we need to keep in mind the amount of traffic that Carroll Street perhaps, and the type of traffic, and what would be the better product for Carroll Street.
Yep. So no, that's a good idea. Certainly will. So moving on from the speed tables with fire rescue. So one of the other areas where we went is to the infamous gate at 140th and 40th, because they were having some issues, not because of the way we designed it, because we've had so much vandalism with people trying to break the lock, and they're bending it, smashing, even where it's protected by the circle. It's very difficult. So we're going to have our in-house welding guru, Kenny Morrison, along with Rob, figure out a better way to do that, and they'll have their own lock on that, and we'll have our own lock, and that way they can, and we can also, if PBFR allows it, give those keys for their lock to PBSO as well. So, because there has been some issues, particularly at night. If it's raining, it makes it very hard to open it the way it is, not because of the way we designed it, because they didn't have any issues until more recently, when someone was really trying to, in the internal part, bend it or cut it. So it looks like they were trying to cut the, I forget what it's called now, but we have a piece that goes through to keep it snug, and they were trying to break that.
Have they been able to break it lately, or?
No, they have not. But they've bent it to the point now where it does make rapid removal of that lock difficult. And once you bend metal, it's, especially like that, it's virtually impossible to put back in shape.
But they
So,
haven't been successful getting it?
They have not.
That's
So
good.
one of the comments that Fire Marshal DeRita made, if we could put a joint lock on that. He hasn't got back to me on that as well either. Bring that up, so I'll reach it back out to him for the Knox lock.
Yeah. So that's basically it for,
Okay.
just not other government, but even for my executive director report.
Great, thank
So,
you.
Thanks.
Patty?
So I have a question. Talking about the traffic calming and the issues on 120th, could we maybe reach out to PBSO and see if throughout the community, maybe they could put like a car? So on Town of Palm Beach, they'll park like a car,
Mhm.
and you don't know if an officer is in there or not.
Yeah.
Would there be something maybe we could see if they could start, this
Yeah.
way they don't know if somebody's in there or not?
Yeah,
and Maybe
sure.
that might help control them a bit?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, they had done that selective enforcement or whatever they call it once or twice over there, but then, you know, they move on because
Right,
they're
well, that's what I'm
short-staffed,
saying.
so.
If we can just have
yeah.
it sporadically there and just,
Yeah, and that is one other thing I forgot with PBSO. We are going to try to have an internal meeting with the lieutenant and sergeant out here on the ATV issues because they're creating problems on roads where we either just graded them or we put down millings and they're going on it, or they're running right next to our vehicles or graders, and unfortunately they're also doing that to just normal people driving to and from, playing chicken with them, and that's just not gonna end in a bad situation. So,
Yeah, there's too many kids getting hurt, too many people getting hurt, it's not good.
thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so on to the consent agenda, so we had,
Madam Chair.
oh, I'm sorry.
Patty moved an item off to the regular agenda.
Right, I was gonna bring that up right now, to have discussion on 11-4.
Right. So I pulled this because we've previously provided comments and being consistent with other comments that we've provided. And Mary, we have policies, the district, that we've adopted. When we say about roads, dead-end roads, millings, paving, whatever, that we have to have the majority of the residents on the road consent to it. And again, another thing that I have a problem with the county in terms of what they require, as if what we require or whatever policies we have are not important. And so I'm going to use this Planet Kids one as an example because there's several other ones, Jay, that I'm sure it's the same issue. So the county requires that they pave only up to their driveway, or, you know, in this particular case of the first property, but in some cases, they're requiring them to pave not their, you know, in front of their property. But that, again, should not, if the county's going to require it, I do believe that our board needs to be approving it according to our policies. And I believe that the residents on that road deserve to weigh in on it. And so when it relates to, you know, paving, in this particular case, they're only going to pave up to the driveway that they're going to be accessing. And this is an expansion of something that was approved. And I provided some comments to you, Jay, about this. I'm very concerned about this location, the expansion, what they're doing, the amount of traffic that's going to be coming. It's going to be very unsafe. And, but separate and apart from that, I believe our residents on that street deserve to be notified and to consent or object to paving or anything on their street, just like every other street. Just because the county has approved something here shouldn't change our policy. And then just separate apart from that, I object to that road, that residential road being used for all this traffic and the expansion of this. It is a terrible location. People come from the west and they're trying to turn left from Hamlin onto, or not Hamlin, what's that street? Murcott. They're trying to turn left to go to that daycare, and then they gotta turn left again. And then in addition, the reason for this expansion that's justified, or at least part of their justification statement, is serving Avenir. So you're going to be having traffic coming from the east, which to me still seems really far away, but regardless, even if it's coming from Westlake, you have traffic that's coming in, and we're going to have a light there. It's going to be a T intersection, but it's, and they're requiring a turn lane be put in there, which again, that's our right of way. We haven't agreed to that. And the county's forcing these conditions on to these people. And it's only in a specific situation, not in the whole area. So I just hate it. And I don't know what the solution is, other than I think that we have to have, whenever there is paving, that our policy prevails. And if the residents object to it, then we should not allow that or permit that, period. That's all.
Okay. So that being said, do we have a motion to approve 11.4? Hearing none? Okay.
Good sales.
I really think that we need to hear from our residents on it. So until we understand what our residents want, and those residents, are they aware how much traffic's going to be increased here?
And again, are we in the same position where the residents aren't being notified at this point of the timeline?
Do they know that the road's being paved?
Do you want to make a motion to postpone this until further action?
I'll make a motion to table it until, but make a motion to table it, but also to require the landowner to get a petition from the residents, or that we notify the residents that this is what the county's going to require. And remember, this is only paving up to their driveway, which again is still, anyway. So I'd like to hear from the residents that live on that street. So whether it be that you require the landowner to do it, or you want to send a letter out, because this isn't any different than, you know, the district is going to go do it, the county's requiring it.
Yeah, well, I think we can reach out to the county, because the county should send that, not up.
Well, it's our policy, remember?
Yeah.
So I don't know, I kind of think it's the landowner's responsibility, that if we have a policy that says that you have to have a petition to pave a road or to object to it. I mean, our policy, if we're going to be doing it, we send a notification to all the landowners, right? If somebody objects. So,
Mary?
Just for clarification, do we have a policy on that issue, or you're just saying you think we need to have a policy?
We do have a millings and paving policy.
Okay, is it millings or just pavings?
We have a paving policy too, and it requires consent of the landowners, majority consent of the landowners on the road.
To do the millings.
And to do paving. So what I'm saying is, why are we disregarding that just because the county is requiring?
Okay, may I make a suggestion? Just
Yes.
because it's a unique situation, and I think you're, can we just do a motion to defer this to the next board meeting?
Absolutely.
Is that okay with you, Ms. Harris?
As long as we're going to do something about it, that's all.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to defer item on the consent agenda 11.4. Betty, second. Keith? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Michael, are you still with us?
Yeah, just real quick, I know it's coming off of the dead end street, and Maricott's the street just south of it. I mean, how come they're not using that as an entrance in their design?
Which is already
Is it
paved,
not
right?
already-
Did we pave that for them?
Over by Planet Kids, on Murcott, no,
Yeah,
nothing's
Murcott.
paved. And then the next street, north of that, I don't think it's paved.
Murcott itself
Yeah,
has
no,
some
I just,
red.
just curious, I was just curious why they
It's
plan
all
to
dirt.
use
I take it.
the second, I guess it was the current design.
No,
I just
Murcott is
wasn't
not
sure 'cause,
built.
you know,
Yeah, it's
Murcott
dirt.
is Just south of it.
Because this is.
Either way, in favor, aye.
Okay. Okay.
Any-
Motion passes.
Any
Oh,
public
oh,
comments?
we need public comment for this. Do we have any public comment? Anybody online? Oh,
Somebody-
yes.
I'm the engineer for Simmons and White, who designed this.
Do we have a card filled out so we have your information?
Oh, he didn't know he was gonna talk.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
wasn't prepared to speak
That's
on this
okay.
topic, but,
Just do me a favor, please, when you're done, fill out a card just so we have your information.
okay.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, what was your name?
My name is Eric Vettel from Simmons and White. So
Okay.
we are the civil engineer who did this design. I guess the question was about the access to the Planet Kids site. I guess the reason why it was designed this way was the site plan approval with the county. And what's the reason why the millings and paving is designed this way is from site plan approval. So I guess the same issue that's been coming up.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for him? No?
Jen, do you have any questions?
No, we've been through this since
Yeah,
July.
Jay
They've been
put me
very-
through the ringer on
Very,
this one.
very responsive. We are now sitting on the DRO, as you well know. We
Right.
would have had input into this earlier on, but unfortunately, you went through before we got a seat. So hopefully, we can address these issues a little better in the future.
So this is it with the county? I mean, we're beyond the point where we can address this? Is that what you're saying?
Their site plan is already approved, so it's been through DRO a while ago.
Okay. Mm. Patty, any questions?
So if it's been, yes, sorry,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's okay.
So if it's been through DRO, if we contest them paving it?
We still have to give a
Okay.
permit for any of the work.
Okay, okay,
That we'll figure out hopefully before the
Okay.
next meeting.
okay.
And I guess just for future, right, I think we need to get this clarified and hammered down and be consistent with it, because in the past, we've just kind of accepted. The county puts these conditions, and it doesn't matter whether we like it or we don't, but we do have a say, and we do have policies, and they should be followed. So maybe we need to think about at what point in the process do we require an applicant to do that prior to submittal, or when they're submitting their drainage. You know, obviously, you don't want to be doing it if you've got a lot of changes to do, that you want to do it at a point where it makes sense. But just like we notify them that they have to have equal compensating storage, we should also be notifying that if there's any pavement, anything to do with ITID roads, that there's specific,
Procedures.
yeah, because it's not fair to the residents.
I think that's something we'll have to, through the chair, sorry. That's probably something we'll need to speak to Whitney Carroll and Pat Rutter, the Assistant County Administrator, to have that actually at the county level so it triggers it. So, because sometimes we might, even if, now that we're on the DRO, like Jay's saying, sometimes a lot of this stuff starts rolling before we see it on the DRO, or before he sees it, so.
Through the chair. Based on this, doesn't this also affect the community center and the school and the church? Same thing. They want to use our side roads too for there, so it should be, all three of these are lumped in the same ballpark.
This one's just a lot farther along.
If you look at this picture right now, it looks like there's an entrance in the front there, but that ended up being overflow parking, if I remember correctly, in the front there. And I had questioned initially why that wasn't the entrance into the property, which then would not impact either of our roads. Now, mind you, Seminole Pratt there is, I believe, our road too, that was not turned over to the county. But the county's also requiring turn lanes being built there and all kinds of other things. It just,
Well, it gets back to you saying if they have access to a side road rather than a major road.
yeah. So at this point, I appreciate all the work's been done. I provided comments about this previously. I do think that we need the consent of the landowners and make sure that they're aware of what's going on here. It's not the whole road, it's only going to the end of that second property. Yeah. So it's, yeah, the other side.
But they still need to ask everybody that's on that road, because it's, they may want full road to be paved.
Maybe.
Okay, so we're gonna handle this at the county level?
Well, county
gonna
and
take-
staff, district staff
Right.
level.
Okay.
And any petitions will have to go out from the applicant at their cost.
Are you okay with that?
Because you have
Okay.
choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
sorry.
Get a permit.
Sorry, right, exactly. So, just to clarify, you're gonna send a letter to every resident?
There's
Well,
only,
I would need to check with the landowner on this.
Okay,
Well, yeah, it's not, it's the landowners that are along 92nd Lane North from Seminole Pratt
To Banyan.
to, yeah.
So this is part of the county use policy with
It goes to Banyan.
paving? Is that the reason why?
Yes.
Okay.
correct.
I don't, so it has to come to the district for a permit, right?
Yeah.
And we already have a policy with respect to paving. So we could say, and this is unfair to this is why I keep saying, it's unfair to the landowner or the applicant that they get so far down the road and then they have to come to us and they've been told certain criteria from the county and then it messes things up and they have to go back to the drawing board and we look like the bad people. But it's our district, our roads, our maintenance, these landowners should have a say in it and they don't get a say. So, you know, maybe we make it a requirement of the permit that, you know, when you come for the permit for the paving and these other things, that you have to have the consent of the landowners in order to be able to do that. The risk about that is that if those landowners say no, then you're that far down the process at that point and the landowners are objecting to it. So I don't know what point is the right time to do it, but
Well, I think this is a unique situation. You're bringing up some very interesting concepts. So maybe just for the month, you know, allow us to take a look at it, engineering take a look at it, and maybe they can work with the landowner to try to get a good resolution.
Yep. Through the chair, we have two things we can say on a DRO review. And again, this one didn't go through that review because we weren't on the DRO yet.
Right.
We can make it a comment, which is non-mandatory to meet, or we can make it an issue. If this is an issue, the applicant has to address it. So through the DRO process, we can address these issues.
I think it should be an issue moving forward, absolutely. I mean,
We'll
you're
come
stuck
back
in the
to
middle of this, so
Yeah,
sorry,
I know.
right, sorry. This is nothing personal, believe me, but, you know, as Supervisor Argy said, this is, a lot of residents are gonna be affected. You know, it's their right, in our opinion, that they should have a say in it. Just like if somebody wants their road milled, they get a petition by all the residents, the majority says yes, we have to work by what the majority wants. So, and in, like I said, in your case, you're kind of coming in on the back end, but, yeah, if we
Well,
can,
let's just, my recommendation
Yep,
is
yep.
go ahead, defer, and then we can
Yeah.
take a look at it during the month.
Okay.
through the chair.
Is that okay?
Also, is there traffic modeling on this?
Yes, we've had full traffic statements, full modeling done.
Can you
Yeah.
please, do you have that, Jay? I didn't go on the county site to look at what was there.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
traffic
you could
statements are
forward that to the
required
whole
for the
board.
site plan approval, so I can check back at the office.
I didn't ask for that because we weren't in the DRO process.
At the
through
time.
chair yet, so I have the plans to couch, but not traffic in my file. But it's readily, if it was submitted, it's readily available.
Yeah, if you can get that to us, that would be great.
I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
See you next.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All the questions, then you can call the motion on to
Okay,
defer.
so we have a motion to table this, to defer, excuse me, to defer
To the next meeting.
until our next regular board meeting after staff and council has time to research. Okay,
Let the staff can take a look.
okay, very good. So,
I mean, if time is of the essence, that we can do it at the special meeting too, right? It doesn't have to be, no?
It's possible, I mean,
I'm just saying.
is that enough time?
It's just that the way that you worded it, that's not what my motion was. My motion
Oh.
was to defer it.
Just
But
plain defer.
if we have a special meeting and the time is of the essence and we want to bring it forward because they have the answers, we can do that, so we're not slowing it down too much
Okay.
for them.
Makes
I'm
sense.
fine with that.
Okay.
I just would like some consideration to this, and maybe we're going to have to, on this one, swallow it, but
Moving
we
forward.
need to be discussing this in terms of, future, what are we going to do, how are we going to handle this,
Absolutely, okay.
But I do think, Jay, when anybody is calling about, a potential project, which oftentimes you get that call as the district engineer, and you're talking about the equal compensating storage, I think we need to be talking about the road as well, so.
10-4.
Okay.
Okay, so Supervisor Argy made the motion, Supervisor Giordano second.
Public comment.
We
We
did
did.
public comment.
We did do-
So that was
Oh, good.
that
was
was,
public comment.
that was Eric. Eric was our public comment. Do we have any other public comment online? Nope, nothing? Okay, so let's call the vote. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Okay, see that it passes 5-0. All right, now, motion to approve the consent agenda, items 11.1, .2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Motion.
Nope. Patty, Keith is the second, all in favor?
Aye.
We have to do public.
No, Michael?
Nope.
Got it right this time.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay, staff presentations are complete. Do we have anything else under staff presentations?
No,
We're
ma'am,
done?
not from me.
Okay, supervisor business.
Okay, I just have a few, just not even for discussion, I just want to make a report. I have been tasked to represent Indian Trail at several meetings, so I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible. One of the first meetings I went to was for SIDS, and it was an interesting meeting, very small room, only pretty much the board of directors there, and one gentleman that addressed that they needed a stop sign because of fatality on one of the roads, and Sid couldn't do anything really about it. They had to talk to the city council of Westlake to see about putting in their stop sign. Apparently, that's how that works. Florida Power and Light's given them $1 million to do, I believe, a cell tower or something by the M2 canal, which we need to look at. Why can't we get money from FP&L if they're giving them $1 million? They need to, fork over a little bit to us, too. They talked about everybody having to start going in for the 4-hour ethics course. They talked about that. And they brought up about the special district bill that was in Tallahassee. That's pretty much all Sid had to talk about. As far as the Treasure Coast Regional Planning, there's been 2 meetings since the last board that I went to. What they talked about was almost dealing with the Lachahatchee Slough presentation. They were big on talking about wildlife corridors, environmental issues, overdevelopment too that's in Port St. Lucie and Martin County, that their ag, rural lifestyle is changing. Also, I believe I talked with Dr. Delaney about coming to do some type of session with us to talk about where we stand, because in going to some of these meetings, I'm listening, like I brought up with the presentation about how Jupiter Farms has somewhat got a little protection because of the Latchachi River, and we really don't have any kind of protection like that. What is our identity? We need to come up with we are equestrian, we are agriculture, but do we really have a real identity that we can use to sell who we are? That's pretty much all that was. Also, Royal Palm Beach, their meeting, I mentioned to Burgess once before on this. They are only like 20 square miles, and they have 60.2 miles of paved bikeways. And what happened with the child that just got killed, we really need to look at the some kind of using the power lines to have horse trails, bike trails, walking trails, get people off of some of our major streets in safer areas in which to ride their horses, ride their bikes, and walk. What they also talked about is, tomorrow's the last day of the month, but this was bike month to ride your bike. So a little late with that, but it was bike month.
We all should have ridden our bike here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be fun, going down the road.
Should have done it in the parade.
Yeah.
Just an FYI for people that want to hear what's going on with Royal Palm Beach too, where the old Toys R Us is, Baptist Hospital is putting like a mini hospital in there. And also, right overnight, I didn't even know it was being built, but they built another warehouse between Aldi, the grocery, and Aldi, the distribution center, and they're going to put a meat packing plant in there. And it's been in business 100 years. It's moving from Dixie Highway to Royal Palm Beach. Huh? Bushes, yes. Okay, so that's kind of like wrapping that up. Just some comments that I want to make. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. We really need to see about better communications, because, you know, what's going on with 40th, 140th, what's going on with Coconut and Orange Boulevard. You know, we're being dropped out of the loop, it seems like, with a lot of this stuff. 162nd, I don't see what it costs $500,000 to do at 162nd. They had a nice green grass area that's in front of the school that they could have easily, for less than $500,000, put their own road in from Okeechobee to the school that they could have used. It's their property, they could have done it. I already said about strengths and weaknesses, environmental, economics. Last but not least, I know this is something close to Betty's heart. We're supposed to mill 130th Street, and I guess this job's getting to us a little bit. I wind up dreaming about stuff. Somebody brought up about the rubber speed humps and all. I'm thinking that lady complained about her horse walking across the asphalt. Can't we put like a jogging track, rubber at each end of the paved milling roads where we do have horse trails that the horses can walk across? I don't know if that's going to cost any more than asphalt, but it's something to consider for the horses, to make sure that they have a easier way to cross the road. And thanks for listening to my rant and rave, but thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Just through the chair, you know, I have 3 horses. I've actually run down a blacktop road before on a horse that is 4 hooves are shod. So, I mean, you're talking about crossing 20 to 22 feet of either milled or pavement. But if you want us to look at it, I can
just
tell
look
you,
at the cost to appease our residents that are worried about it.
Well, I'm going to tell you because I've put in other types of materials in previous jobs, and it kicks it up a higher amount. So as long as you guys are okay with it, no problem.
Like, can you just figure out what it would cost? I'm not saying to do it, but let's see what it costs.
Yeah.
The thing about, I like where you're going with it, but the thing about a horse, if you think about a horse, right, And if you've ever been to any of the shows that we have, they do like desensitization, right? And one of the things that they do in those extreme, in trails and desensitization is that you gotta introduce the horse to different things that they're not familiar with and how do they handle it. But I'm not sure if you have like one of those rubber speed tables, if that doesn't become a possible safety hazard for that horse more so than.
No, I wasn't saying put a speed table, like that type of material.
That similar thing. What I'm trying to say is that when I questioned, and this was really important to me because, and I know the resident very well for years, but she said they slip, right? But no matter what we put out there, if the horse is going to, there's not, apart from it staying dirt, and we haven't been dirt 100% for a long time. So you risk that is where I'm going with it. But one of the things that's in our mobility plan is where we have crossings, like for schools, that is a different material, it's a different color, it looks different.
Like green with it.
Yeah.
Bike path.
Yeah. But the other thing is that rubber gets really hot, I would think. So I'm not sure that the temperature is going to be any different if it's a temperature issue. But anyway, we're not going to please every single resident. And, some people, no matter what we do, they're just going to be upset because we're not 100% dirt and we haven't been 100% dirt for 20, 25 years, 30 years, okay? And that we just have to accept that. But what we attempt to do is to have the horse trails, protect the horse trails. That's what we've been talking about with the mobility plan. That's what we've been talking about with 130th, putting up those
split rails.
Yeah, and I mean we're trying to look at that, right? But
Through the chair. So next week they have an EDIAC. I'll ask Angie or Kenny to put it on there to talk about that because we also have about maybe not doing split rail because that's very expensive and they tend to get vandalized and it's easier to replace a raw cut board than it is that, but we can talk about that. I just didn't want anybody to get their hopes up because I've done some of that, not necessarily for horses, and it adds a tremendous amount because the stuff that you need to buy has to be able to withstand repetitive car weight going over it. So, but we'll talk to them about that, or I'll have them talk to them about it.
I mean, it was just an idea because, like you said, you've gone down the roads, being from New
And
Orleans,
it's not-
horses walk during all the Mardi Gras parades and everything else, and that's like 5 to 10 miles down asphalt. The policemen up and down the French Quarter constantly on mounted horses. So, I don't know. I'm not a horse. It's like I don't want to walk on hot asphalt without my shoes.
And just one more thing, when Royal Palm Beach, because they have a lot of HOAs and they had a lot of development orders, so as those areas go in, they probably paid for a lot of those types of trails. I can't say all of it, but.
Or required the developer.
Yeah, so usually that stuff started a long time ago, and then of course they're eligible for a lot more grants and revenues. But yeah, I mean, that's something we've been
Dr.
working on.
Lady said that she would look into, that's part of our mobility, that she would look into,
Yeah,
some
I mean,
trails.
it's already in there. It's just a matter, and we've been doing that over the past couple of years, and that's why people are getting upset with their assessments, because the TA and LI grants that pay for those types of things are, you have to pay for them up front, and then you get some of the money back. So anyway, I just wanted to address that. It's not as simple when you don't have any pot to start pulling from. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's
Yeah.
some of the things I picked up from my ventures out of Indian Trail.
Okay.
I had somebody comment about the trucks, and I just wanted to say that although we made a portion of our community not happy, I think we were doing it for the better of our community. And, I think like Betty said a few minutes ago, we can't make everybody happy, but we do the best to make it the majority happy. So that's how I feel about that one.
Ditto.
That's it?
Nice. No. Nice try.
Adjourn.
Quick.
I have a question for you, Keith, because you mentioned FPL poles or FPL and M2 Canal and cell phone tower. So when we're talking about M2 Canal, are we talking about outside the city of Westlake's boundaries?
I imagine it's
In front of
inside.
my house kind of deal?
I imagine inside. Well, they brought up that canal, I believe, that canal that runs by your house is always, it was Calorie Joe's Canal. I don't know whose
I
it is
understand
now.
that. What my question is where is this cell phone tower going? Because
I
the
didn't-
M2 Canal runs from Southern all the way to, and I'm fully aware of the history.
They didn't really say that. I just wrote down, I was
Okay.
trying to write down the notes, and I was like, wow, you getting $1 million for this? It's like, where's our money?
You saw the money and then that was it.
That was it.
Brain shut off.
All right.
Well, they can give me $1 million, they can put one in front of my place. Put them where the dumpsters are.
Do they do
That'll
something?
stop all that.
I didn't know FPL did, but yeah.
It might have been solar.
Oh, I can't
Something
keep
else.
up. Can't keep up with it.
So the other thing is, to piggyback on something else that you said, Keith, it's my understanding, I've talked to several different people who have said to me that Martin County and Port St. Lucie, Martin County, their new mantra is, we don't want to be Palm Beached. For years, we've been saying we don't want to be Browardized, we don't want to be, Miami-Dade.
said about Miami.
And now they're saying that about us.
Yeah.
It's really,
It's the natural
Wow.
progression north that's been happening forever.
So, do we have, and have we been looking, I know we have our grant guy, and I haven't heard a presentation from him in a long time as an update. But I'm wondering, because there's a lot of federal money and state money, different pots outside of just the normal grants, and I'm just wondering, I know Scarlett, you're on top of things. FOSDE puts out, and I think I've sent you one occasionally here and there, but there are different pots of money that become available that we may be eligible for different things, and so I'm just hoping that we're looking at some of this infrastructure stuff. And
I think
maybe-
that's where the.
But of course, we, have to be selective, obviously.
Yeah. Through the chair, yeah. So I have a friend in DC who's a lobbyist, and he sends me that stuff, no charge to the district or me, but just in general. So when I go through it and see things, I pass it on to Rob or Scarlett, and we review it. So outside of Ryan.
All right, and then on the east-west canal project, do we have the grant funding for that now? Are we doing that in-house, or are we contracting that out?
We are still satisfying the request for additional information. Their latest, it's a 404 wetlands permitting issue that we have applied for, and that's, I don't know if you've been exposed to the emails, but the Circuit Court of DC has now ruled that the delegation to the state of Florida is not valid. So that's all, Florida was processing them, and apparently DC court said that they don't think that they can do the job that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service will do. So it's all up in the air right now, and we're also trying to satisfy the request for analysis of, what was it called? We have to, damages versus benefits analysis. I don't remember the exact name, but we've just gotten all of the perfect information from the county's LiDAR data, and we've measured the roads relative to elevations throughout the district. And I have to put that into some type of spreadsheet and analyze the duration and depth of flow. So we are still trying to satisfy the request from the grantors to get the money. We do have the money to do the study. And
Okay.
we haven't used it all up, but we don't have the money to do the project. Did I miss anything, Scarlett?
Well, we actually have 2 grants
Okay.
that we're working on.
There were
for the
phases.
East-West. No.
No?
We have 2 separate grants. One is the original one, which I call the 267, and which is hazard mitigation grant. And then we have a new one, a fairly new one that we got from Resilience Florida. And so we're still in the very beginning phases with the Resilient Florida grant.
Yeah, that's how we're wiping away our local match, by using those
Okay.
other grants.
All right, so ultimately, once we get there, are we planning on doing that in-house or we're contracting it out?
So that's something that as we get closer to it, I'm not so sure that we should be doing some of that in-house, because
Right.
I don't think we have the resources, and, that's something during the budget process we're going to talk a little bit more about, because the pool of heavy equipment operators in Palm Beach and even Martin County is dwindling. They're retiring, or they're moving out of the area, and there's no young generation that's coming in to try to, take that over. So we may have to do more contract work on some of these, but with the East-West, that's a big project that's going to require different levels of equipment that we'd either have to rent if we could rent it, or have to buy it. So we haven't made a final decision on that, but that one may have to be, parts of it may have to go out.
And then on the comment about Loxahatchee Groves, it was a safety issue, and not just a safety issue for pedestrians and bike riders, but also for vehicles, but the residents that were being trapped in their homes, not being able to get out of their driveways. So I don't like that we ended up spending more than we anticipated, but the project ended up being more than we anticipated too, as I recall. And at the end of the day, it may not look like $500,000 to you, but I've talked with people that go to school there that are really pleased. I've talked with residents that are really pleased. I've talked with the principal, the school district commissioner. So it was money well spent. And anybody who lives in that area in particular, it benefits the most. The residents that live just completely west of that school. And I'm not asking for, you had your opportunity to talk, I didn't say anything. I'm stating this for the record, that those landowners, you may not be aware of this, but they donated that road years ago when Loxahatchee Groves was being proposed to be built, and that was in the 1960s, okay? And I don't think the road donation came until a little bit later, but the reason why they did that is that they didn't think that they should have to be paying, once that school started being busier, they didn't think they should have to pay for the maintenance of that road. So they turned it over and deeded it to Indian Trail. They didn't deed it to Loxahatchee Groves Water Control District. They deeded it to Indian Trail. And our landowners live on dead-end streets off of that. So we had an obligation to deal with that. And it's something that has been an issue for a long time. And I'm not certain that it's been completely resolved. However, to your point about the exit or the land that they have on Okeechobee Boulevard, I sat on the PTO. I was the PTO president for several years. I pushed that as an option for years and talked with the school district. What I was never aware of, and most people aren't, is that there's actually wetlands as part of that land. Where the cluster of trees are is wetlands. So that's part of the complication of trying to put a drive aisle there, because we had a really elaborate designed drive aisle that could utilize that land to connect and take the traffic off of not only 162nd, but off of Okeechobee Boulevard. But there's, wetlands, there's South Florida water management issues, there's all kinds of other things. So it's not as simple as, well, why didn't they do this, And because I've been involved in it long before I became elected, I understand it. And I never wanted to spend the money because I felt that the school district should pay, the county should pay, everybody else should pay but us, because we're having to do these things. But when it comes down to the safety and health and well-being of our residents, that's got to take priority. So, sorry, not sorry. I think we did the right thing, and so that's.
I'm not disputing that we shouldn't have done something, but I'm not talking about where the trees or the wetlands are, but right almost next to 162nd, they could have put a road in, would have been great. I don't want anybody to get hurt, even though on Facebook people are saying they don't care about people, they care about the Sandhill cranes being run over. That's why we should put State Road 7 through. It needed to go, but I just thought that, and I'm not an engineer, that would be Jay Foy, but I'm saying like right next to 162nd, it might have made more sense to put it there.
So to your point, there is still an opportunity to continue to work with the school district and with the county for improvements and doing other things, because I truly believe that school, I'm not sure where they're at now, but I think that they're either at capacity or over capacity, and it's not going to get better until more schools are built. And I'm not hearing that any more schools are being built in our area right now.
There's one, I think, that planted in Arden, a school there. But keep it with your point, we need to look also at the school district in general, because we're doing 180th. Those schools create a lot of backup on 180th too.
Well, and that, some of that has already been considered in our R3 road planning and will be resolved when we do Tangerine and 180th and 60th. Some of that will be dealt with. Maybe not all of it, but some of it, the real safety issues will be addressed, especially once we open up 60th. Yeah. So, anyway, the other thing is that I attend a lot of different meetings, and whether it be watching them online or going in person, or I did not go to the county meeting that I was watching both times, and it was medical issues that prevented me from going. There is a sense right now that, or I should say, I have a sense right now that things are moving very, very fast, and there's a changing sentiment, and it relates to certain messages that are being put out to the community. And I think, personally, it behooves us as elected officials to call out the misinformation. And I don't criticize the rest of the board members for doing it or not doing it, but I also expect that I not be criticized for doing it. So it's something that I have always done. It is something that there is respect for me in the community for doing, and I'm going to continue to do it. I think that when our county commissioner makes statements publicly at a county commission meeting that are blatantly false, or when she makes them on social media that is blatantly false, that to me is it's beyond the pale, and it should not stand, because that kind of misinformation in our community is going to affect the support or the the support for the facts, let's just say, okay? So I urge you all that if you do see something that you know is blatantly false, to consider putting the information, the correct information out. Because it's coming fast and furious. And I don't know about you all, but I've been blocked on Facebook by an elected official, okay? And that same elected official also has a private group about updates of our district. So I'm letting you all know that it's war for me, okay? When you start behaving as an elected official, going against your representatives, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not. I haven't been to date. Melissa McKinley and I were not best friends. I was not her biggest fan. Everybody knows that, right? But we got a lot done together. We accomplished a lot. And one thing Melissa McKinley never ever did was damage our district or set out to damage us or set out to undermine our district and our efforts to protect our residents. And don't go out there and put lies and then in the next breath be undermining it. Oh, I'm about preserving and protecting the community while she's stabbing us in the back, the community, okay? I can't stay quiet. I can't, and I'm not going to. So that's all I have to say.
And on that note, I'd just like to add to that, if one of us comments on something, the rest of us should not in that same place. If you want to put it on your own social media, but
You can
just
do your own post.
be very mindful. Look at the comments before you add your opinion or any facts, and make sure that not one of the other of us have done so.
Notice I did a post on my webpage to address the misinformation about the amount of money we've spent on legal fees, which I got directly from staff, and I put that out because that was to address one of the pieces and the claims that's out there. And yeah, $2.3 million seems like a lot of money, right? But we didn't just spend that $2.3 million today, okay? And we certainly, it's over 5 years. And I did a quick back of the napkin calculation, and I said, that's like $25 a house per year. So our residents deserve to know, because otherwise they're being manipulated with things that they don't understand, because it's being misrepresented from a source that is the most unlikely source you would expect as a county commissioner. So, that's it.
That's why I gave up social
Would have been
media.
happy with the ditto, but.
It's not just social media.
It's-
There's been quotes in the newspaper. She does it from the dais at the county commission.
But I would love to address what you just said about the 2.3, but we need to do that at the closed meeting.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm going to just speak quickly. Everybody, I'm sure, is aware that Wellington passed their vote to go on to a referendum to annex our south entrance into Wellington. Unless those residents change their mind, I don't see anything changing there. So we can only hope that the new council will think about and consider a lower density when they do decide to start approving their zoning and whatnot for those properties. And with that, let's go to receive and file reports. Item 14, do I have a motion to receive?
Michael.
Oh, Michael, I'm sorry, you're so quiet. I totally forgot you were on. How are you?
No worries. Good. Go off of Keith's bike month report. I was gonna make it there, but I had 2 flat tires, so I couldn't make it. I apologize.
Two.
I had a real quick, I wanted to reiterate what Betty was saying earlier with the South Florida Water Management Project with the Mecca. Basically, everything she said is how I felt, and this did come up previously in the Palm Beach County Water Test Resource meeting years ago, when Melissa did stand up and say, hands down, we are against you know, the elevated 20-foot levee. And I didn't really hear from the rest of you guys. I wanted to make sure if it comes up again at the water task force meeting, that, you know, we kind of reiterate how we feel about it, because I will be speaking on behalf of the entire board, you know, if it comes up again.
Well, I think it's definitely concerning. Any failure, we'd be in big trouble, so that's my personal opinion on that. Yeah.
Sorry.
I think we do.
Okay, anything else?
Michael, didn't the board also approve sending a letter objecting to that previously?
Yes, and
Yeah.
when Melissa spoke out about it, you know, I agreed with her during the task force meeting, but I feel like it's kind of fallen on deaf ears, apparently.
Right. They're moving forward regardless.
Okay.
It might be a good idea to forward that to the board members. That's why I was trying to allude to, there's a long history here with respect to that property, this project, and, you know, an L8 basin plan. We've talked about it briefly, but.
Okay. Michael, anything else?
Yeah. No, I just know that the elevation of the dam and the levee around it was a concern for the residents up there, and then just Betty made a great comment about, you know, it would be hard to get behind it if, you know, we didn't have the future expansion of Seminole Rec, you know, didn't have room to pass through there, so that's just something I want to make sure, you know, you guys were all behind if it came up again, and, you know, at the other meeting.
Very good, thank you.
I think he's looking for a consensus from the board that our position hasn't changed.
I agree.
All right.
Keith is nodding if you can't hear him. Okay, you have it.
I saw Keith nod.
You saw it? Okay, very good, very good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Michael, and thank you for serving on that task force too, because that's very important to our district, and we appreciate that. Okay, barring anything else, back to 14. Motion to receive and file 14.1 through 14.9. Moved by Betty, second by Patty. All in favor?
Aye. Michael?
Michael? All right, passes 5-0, and this meeting is adjourned.
Give kisses to that baby for us.
Yes.
She appreciates you guys letting me be absent tonight. We had a very long week last week.
That's really good.
Well,
Big hugs to you all.
You have my mom praying for her. She loved seeing her the other day.
Recording stopped.
Oh, might have already cut us off.
Oh.
My mom got to see
I was
her
trying to have
at
a
the parade
conversation
the other
here.
day.
Yeah. I was at, oh my God, look at my.
So you're gonna take this?
My thinking of.
Really good.
Shoot, is this okay? You're allowed. Don't rush.
I gotta get my school books out here.
Yeah, so, no, I'll help you. One had, flag football at 9:30 in the morning. And both of them wanted to spend a few days there, right? And I'm on medication, I'm not supposed to have sun. And, so by like noon, I'm dying. So I went for some
Good night, keep this.
and then, Kalen's game was 2:45. And.
Kenny was watching.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Huh?
Says he has a great.
Yeah, so.
Says he's gotta get the. Oh, very interesting.
Oh, hang in there.
We're gonna stop.
Footwork, yes.
She lost her side.
Faster. I said, well, that's because you're riding on your bike all the time and your legs have gotten stronger, but you're not stretching. You're not, I can tell you what he's done and what he's not doing. You know? So I'm like, you've got to get back to, and he's going to that Manning Passive Academy. So I really want to make sure that he's as, like, you know, it sounds bizarre to be training to go to a training camp, but it's also a state of mind.
Oh, yeah,
He
yeah.
gets the most out of that opportunity. And Tevin has now agreed to go.
I've had it, my wife had it, and my youngest brother has it, my dad has it.
I'm concerned
My brother-
that the pressure may be too much for him, and he may end up having like a Tourette's outbreak or something like where, you know, suddenly his tics freak out, but we'll see. We'll see. He just,
Chase was quarterback, and it would have something.
yeah.
And he has something to do something. So he's analytical.
Killen's having really,
What happened?
cocky with the acreage typically, you know, with his team, like the cities. Yeah. The one thing that I'll tell you, I noticed recently for him is that he's really taken leadership.
Well, that's what happened for our
Right?
uncle, actually.
Because I've said to him, if
She.
you want to get to the next level as a quarterback, you
Yeah,
have
broke
to.
off the other way.
So on Saturday,
Well, even though it's called
what did he
broken hip, it was
do?
actually
He
broken
was like,
femur.
his
Her uncle
coaches
fell
were coaching
backward, I
another
think, this
team
time,
game before
and the
theirs.
FEMA
And so
pushed
he ended up,
into
his
the
teammates
hip.
started showing, so they
he
started
had, yeah,
warming up
a
together, and he
fracture,
led them in the
and a
whole
broken
thing.
and
And
fracture.
I was listening to him give them feedback, like, you know, good catch, and, you know, pull the ball
me
in
up pretty
closer
good
to
to get
you,
in.
and all that kind of stuff,
I asked
right?
him-
I was like, wow, I'm impressed, I'm so proud of my people, right?
Do you drink a lot of milk when you were a kid? I'm like,
Good
what's
for
up,
him.
Queen?
Yeah.
Good for him. Kenny was really impressed with everything. You know, he stayed out there. watched
Because your bones are like
He got
concrete.
there at 1 o'clock.
Hey, so you should have had a
And he
colonial
stayed, so
accident,
he
not
broke enough just to
disability.
come watch us sit down. And then he and
I am
Chase
sitting.
went back over to watch the rest of
I got like 400 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry.
Feel better.
I'm
Right.
flushed. Thank you.
Well, and I'll tell you, one thing, I
Good night, good night.
the
Good
Torontos,
night.
I sure will.
the Torontos and their coaching of these kids, they seem to have a niche with understanding these kids and bringing out the best in them. Their whole life revolves
Well,
around
I was gonna
this.
say, Kenny said that, what is it, Wendy's brother-in-law, I think? He's got 2 or 3 kids. He's like, he's on.
They all are.
He's like, you can tell they're stressed for coaches. I think all over the place, they're usually stressed for coaches. He's like, you can see where they're spread thin.
Yeah, but they love what they're doing too.
Right.
Yeah, and, you know, they had called out for some coaches, and,
Did you check about, because you asked about her pen?
do I have,
Do you have?
do I have anything in there?
I don't know.
I haven't checked it either.
And you signed, did you have anything to sign?
What? I signed it.
You did.
Oh, I've got the folder.
Out with it, it's a good thing.
Good thing you brought that up.
Thank you.
I'll drive back here tomorrow.
Is your office open?
Yes. I did sign that one, right? I know. Yeah. Yes, you did.
Did you sign both of them?
Yep. Dum, dum, dum. What?
That's why, right?
She is cool. I like her. You coming in tomorrow?
Yeah, just to get this stuff together. Next week, I might end up working